Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll start first with our invocation and pledges of allegiance before we open the meeting. Trustee Saldana?
Please bow your heads. Almighty and merciful God, we ask your guidance and blessings upon this board, students, parents, patrons, teachers, and administrators as we are assembled here this evening in the common pursuit of this great nation's wealth, our children. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Saldana. Well, once again, good evening, everybody, and welcome. This is a regular meeting of the Northside Board of Trustees. Before we officially call the meeting to order, the board would like to take just a moment to briefly review some of the rules for conducting our meeting. Now, the order of business for this meeting is set out in the agenda. And one item that you may notice on the agenda is the consent agenda. And this item includes things that are considered routine and/or of a recurring nature. All the items listed under consent agenda will be acted upon in one motion. If there is a consent agenda item which anyone here would like to address, please sign up to speak that item, and we'll pull it from the consent motion and discuss it separately. The purpose of the meeting is to conduct board business, and for that reason, it is held in public. It is not a public forum. However, we do provide the opportunity for audience participation. If there's anyone who would like to address the board regarding citizens to be heard agenda item or any of the other items we have, you must complete a sign-up sheet that was located prior to us officially starting the meeting. If there's anyone here that hasn't seen or want that opportunity to sign up on the sign-up sheet? Okay, good. All right. And this is important. We don't want to overlook anyone at the beginning of our meeting that wanted that opportunity. So we'll go ahead, and it looks like we're ready to get started. And I know we're going to start with public hearings, and we'll give it to our superintendent, Dr. Kraft.
Yes, sir. So the first two items, as required, the Texas Academic Progress Report, the 2024 Texas Academic Progress Report, and then also accompanying that report is our House Bill 3 annual report and our goals going forward. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to Dr. Janice Jordan, and we'll proceed. This has been reviewed, like I say, before our academic committee last week. So, like I say, this is your annual taper report and House Bill 3 goals.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kraft, Mr. Blunt, Board of Trustees. As Dr. Kraft mentioned, each February, districts bring to their board required information from the Texas Academic Performance Report, which is TAPER, from the 23-24 school year. The requirements to be in TAPER are outlined in the Education Code, and specifically it focuses not only on issues such as academic performance, but mostly accreditation, how our graduates are doing, and even incidents of criminal offense. So we reviewed this last week at the Academics Committee meeting, and I would like to introduce Dr. Susan Cleveland. Susan works very closely with Dr. Brenda Ward, who would typically be taking the lead on TAPER. Susan and her team are instrumental in when the TAPER report comes out. Anyone who's seen it, it is multiple pages of tables. So to glean that information and put it into bite-sized pieces takes some work. So Susan, I'll kick it to you.
Good evening. In addition to the public hearing, the annual report is also published to the district website under required postings. For the 22-23 school year, Northside Independent School District is deemed as accredited. Due to the delay in accountability ratings, all 23-24 and 24-25 accreditation statuses are not being issued. Our special education determination status meets requirements. Districts Distinctions and A through F ratings for 2024 are not yet available as they are still pending and subject to change based on the judicial rulings. Spring 22 was the last time districts received an A through F rating. Northside Independent School District at that time was rated a B, an 84. When looking at scores at each passing level by subject area, we see that Northside surpassed the state average at both the approaches and meets level in every subject except math. That being said, scores in math declined at the state, region, and local levels from 23 to 24. The state declined 1% more than Northside did at each passing level. Districts are also required to set House Bill 3 goals in third grade, reading and math at the meets level, as well as CCMR indicators. In the next report, we will unpack the House Bill 3 goals and propose new goals as required by statute. One of the requirements in this annual report is to provide information regarding violent and criminal incidents. I'm sure you noticed the high number of felony controlled substance violations. This includes incidences of vaping, which has increased exponentially across the nation in the last few years. To respond to the need and reduce incidences, Northside promotes safe and drug-free school environment in which we educate staff, students, and families on how to prevent and offer early intervention in youth alcohol and drug use, make school environments safer by promoting norms and decrease the use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, build the capacity of substance abuse preventative programs and services across all grade levels, reduce risk factors, and increase protective factors among our students and families. This slide shows that out of all of our over 7,000 students that graduated in 2020, 52% attended and completed their first year of college the year following graduation. Of these students, 1,017 had a 3.5 or higher. That's 27%. 21% earned a 3 or 3.4 grade point average. 26% earned between a 2 and a 2.9 GPA. 25% had a 2.0 or lower GPA. If you'd like to view the full taper report for the district, you can use the provided link here. You can also find it on the Northside website under required postings.
Dr. Cleveland, let me interject. Just a reminder, when you look at the slide for the information on violent and or criminal incidents and prevention, please note that that is not all disciplinary infractions across Northside ISD and our 132 campuses. These are the reportable, like I say, violent criminal incidents, which are in some cases actually, unfortunately, a felony level incident. So it's not inclusive of disruptive behavior and a lot of the your more common disciplinary infractions across campuses, which is obviously much more voluminous.
Good. Thanks for adding that information. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move into the House Bill 3 presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Cleveland. So like TAPER report, it's required that districts give an annual report about their House Bill 3 goals. What's a little bit different about the timing of this report typically is made in the fall, in September or October, but districts didn't do it then because accountability was withheld. So districts waited until the spring. Accountability is still withheld, but the state said just go ahead and move forward with these goals. So what you'll see here is that House Bill 3 requires the adoption of plans in both early childhood literacy and math, as well as CCMR, which is college, career, and military readiness. Specific annual targets for a 5-year period must be set at the meets level in reading and math, as well as targets for a 5-year period for CCMR indicators. To find a starting point of where to set the initial targets, back in 2021, we reviewed 5 years of data to determine trends across all student groups. Since the requirement is to have multi-year goals, we focused on growth at an incremental pace year over year. So once we determined a starting point, we set an annual gain at the meets level And whenever we met that, we adjusted our goals to a percentage to create an aspirational, always kind of chasing the goal at the meets level. So you'll see that the proposed goal for 28-29, which is in the last column, at the meets level for third grade math represents an incremental increase from 2021. You'll also see that in 23-24, 39% of students scored at the meets level in grade 3 math. Both the state and the district decreased 3% in third graders' math performance at meets the prior year. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blunt?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Trustee Freeman?
Yes, before we go any further, sometimes there's a misunderstanding about what meets means, or approaches means, and we haven't looked at approaches here. But we need to, would you please
Absolutely.
help us with that?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Freeman. So it's a requirement for House Bill 3 goals that they be set and communicated at the meets level. And so why is that important? Proficiency levels are in 3 areas. There's approaches, which actually means that the student meets the grade level standard. So when you have students meet at approaches in third grade reading, that means they've met the standard in third grade reading. Meets, although meets sounds like you're meeting the standard, it actually means you've exceeded the standard at that grade level. And then finally, masters shows that students not only have mastered the content, but prerequisites for the next grade level. So it is a little confusing when you see that this is at the meets level. This means that these targets must be set beyond students just meeting the standard. The expectation is they go beyond meeting the grade level standard. This is the same requirement for everyone around the state. If we were looking at approaches percentages, they would be much higher because that meets the standard. So it can be quite confusing, so thank you for that.
And Janice, Bobby?
Yeah, go ahead, Trustee.
And Janice, going back with approaches, though, they are meeting standard, but doesn't the state also say that they would need targeted intervention even though they meet the
Well,
standard?
what it says is students have met the standard. For students to be successful in the next grade level, they may need some additional
Targeted
support.
academic, yes.
But not support such as that they have not met the standard.
Right, but
Yes. And so the
continue
goal
with that kind of intervention
always,
support.
the goal is for all students to meet the approaches piece.
Right.
And then after that, to your point, those students who are at approaches, how do we move them to the meets? And then how do we move them to the masters?
Seats, thank you.
And just one other one to make this a longer slide. To clarify your last point, while we're reporting this way, the campuses and we as a district also define what we want for approaches, what we want for masters, in addition to the requirements here for meets?
Right now, what's specified is growth, that we want not only all students, like if you look at all third grade students, we specify growth that we want to see within each student group from where they are at a point in time to growth. Now, we do specify and look at that when we look at MAP data. MAP data, we always look at proficiency, where students are meeting a target, but then we're also measuring 3 times a year, not only their levels of proficiency, but how they're growing. This, you can set it, it's kind of, you're looking through your rear view mirror at it. We do use interim assessments that are created by the state, which that's intended to kind of give a little peek into how students are going to ultimately perform on STAR. We've also found, and I think we talked about it maybe the last time we got accountability scores, we had 2 releases of A through F when we were using MAP district-wide. And it was very interesting. We saw that students' performance on the EOY map mirrored, in many ways, their performance on STAR. So as we get into conversations about what measures show growth for students over time, I think that's why some are saying that perhaps MAP might be a more useful tool to help instruction and measure growth more frequently than STAR.
And we're gonna start bringing, beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year MAP assessment, results, before you as well. The campuses, more specifically though, do measure using the STAR assessment, through their campus improvement plans.
Right.
So they won't necessarily, particularly if they're already attaining, these benchmarks and are exceeding, they won't set obviously a lower goal for third grade math or third grade reading, but that'll be addressed, like I say, in the individual improvement plans.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Bobby?
Oh, sorry, Trustee Earl?
Sorry, it's hard when we don't get to push our buttons
yeah.
anymore, so I keep pushing the table. Sorry about that. So, Janice, going back, and Dr. Croft, when you were talking about the beginning of the year, middle of year, and end of year with MAP, and now we're doing it more, I'm trying to think, not, are more teachers using MAP as a way to get feedback on how students are progressing, because it's real-time data versus looking at the STAR results from the year before, which it's now even moving towards a different version or a higher grade level of the STAR. Are they seeing some really good data or feedback on how to help their students right then and there?
Yes, great question, and absolutely. Getting the data, like you can look at how students did on STAR in the previous spring. Then when the children, come to you at the beginning of the next year, there's been multiple months that have passed. And so taking the BOY of MAP gives an excellent baseline that you can use the STAR data from the previous year to help see trends and what do you see. And then targets where the specific skills that students need to work on. Lets the teachers know some students already at BOY are pretty close to proficient, which is great, but that's why they also have the growth measure, because the expectation is even if you've hit proficiency, how are you continuing to grow over time? What we see between BOY and MOY, sometimes we'll see small changes. At some of the earlier grades, sometimes we even see a drop, like in kinder and first, because the test changes when you get to the MOY, more difficult. But it also informs the teachers, then they can adjust for the BOY.
And then just the second part of that, or don't we have more, or just help me understand, do we have more teachers using MAP than STAR? Because STAR is only 3 through 8, and then EOC. So do we have first grade teachers using MAP too? So we're getting early data on kids in first
Absolutely.
grade and second grade before they take STAR in third?
Yes, ma'am.
And then all content areas or just in reading and math?
Right now, reading and math.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, so this piece, speaking of math, you'll see the proposed goal for 28-29 at the meets level for third grade also represents an incremental increase of 1%. Oh, I think we already did this slide.
Yeah.
Now let me go to reading. So here you'll see the same incremental increase, except you'll see that our students had a larger than expected gain in achievement at the meets level in 21-22. So notice the goal was 42%. We hit 49%. So what we did in 22-23 is we increased the target that we wanted to meet considerably. So in 23-24, 45% of our students scored at the meets level in third grade reading. The state decreased 2% from 23-24, while NISD decreased 3%. We see those trajectories. Oftentimes, we'll see, oh, we've got a growth in our scores from one year to the next at a certain grade level. We always go, we celebrate. We go and look at the state. Sometimes the state will have that exact same growth, or maybe 1% less or 2% more. We see something similar with declines. If you'll see a decline, then we go look at the state. Maybe we decline 3%. Sometimes the state declined 4 or 5%. Anything that's an anomaly or something certainly that we dig into. So next, remember the third goal we have to set is related to college and career military readiness. You'll see the progress of meeting the goal. There have been several initiatives put in place. This is an area that accountability changed. The percentage that districts had to meet in order to get a certain letter grade increased 28%. So districts have been, really working and focusing on increasing opportunities for our students. So this next slide shows you the goals that we're proposing for 28-29. Remember, each year we come to you, and the goals are set for 5 years from wherever we currently are. So using our incremental process, by the end of 28-29, we're saying the goal is that the percentage of students achieving meets on third grade math will increase to 52%. By that same year, percentage of students achieving meets on third grade reading will increase to 56%. And students achieving the percentage of college, career, and military readiness indicators will be 68%. So the only approval item, which will come in consent, if you agree, is the approval of these goals. And then this will then be formalized on our documents and in campuses, campus improvement plans.
Yeah, Trustee Harrell?
So do we also have to approve the taper report?
No.
No, we don't. So I have a real quick question about the taper report. Susan, I'm not, and I know this was based on last year's data. So just real quick, on the slide that was on information on violent or criminal incidents and prevention. So, and Susan, you said this showed an increase, right? From the year before, or did I mishear?
Actually, it was, overall, the discipline was lower.
It was lower.
The reference I made was to that felony controlled substance, the vape.
The one that was 605. So, and now I just have another question. What was the felony controlled substance? What was the substance? The
THC.
THC? Okay. So then the other question I have is, so this sounds really scary to me, right? So I can't put it in perspective yet, but I'm just wondering if, since it happened last year, this was at the end of last year, I'm sure we're monitoring. Do we see where, is it trending up or trending down? And you said you had a great summary of all the different programs that have been in place, and we know a lot of them. We're real excited, but are we seeing a trend up or down?
So we actually just met with Mr. Glendo yesterday, Ray, was that we met? And talked about discipline data up until this point. Overall, I would say discipline data is trending down as a district, but we wanted to provide the information just if there's any support that was needed. But I would say it was trending down at this point.
And so then maybe in our Friday letter,
Yeah, we can provide
follow-up
an update.
data.
But I want to be real,
Yeah, thanks.
real careful.
Yeah.
Vape is still very prevalent throughout our community, throughout the nation.
It is.
It is, and you don't have to look very far. There are stores that are selling the vape pens and THC content in liquid form, however it's sold, almost on each corner.
Right.
So I don't want to misconvey information that we're getting a grasp on this, because we do need, in my humble opinion, legislation or legislative help in curbing this, because it is a prevalent issue. The biggest issue, aside from obviously the health risk associated, is it's really not a controlled market. And so, just as our police officers have reported, when these instruments are tested, vape pens are tested, the content of the THC percentages vary. So it's a very, very loose, uncontrolled market from that standpoint that we're still wrestling with. You know, I think that the Second Chance Academy that was implemented has been a real positive, which is really based upon both student and parental education programming. But it's still a challenge for us.
I agree.
Yeah, and just to clarify again, like Dr. Kraft said a little bit earlier, after this, again, when you're strictly only talking about violent or criminal incidents is going down, because what we're trying to avoid is appearance or statements that indicate that, you know, the things occurring against teachers and others in the classroom. We've got to remember potentially that is going up, if I'm correct. You know, at least there's a bigger concern. We don't want people to lose that concern if they misread our data. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Blunt. Like, this doesn't cover the persistent misbehavior, some of those other more disciplined pieces. And this is specifically in the education code, this is what it requires for the report, but we can provide any other data.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll provide in the Friday letter an update, just an overview of discipline in comparison to where we were last year. And we can just break it up by PEMS codes.
Okay.
Misdemeanors, as you just articulated, they're not included. These are really
They're
felony.
violent, yeah. No, I think the reason why I'm asking too, there's a lot of discipline bills floating around, and so it'd be nice to match our data to see, you know, where we would fall or support or, yeah, thank you.
Good. So this one, actually, there are two items tonight to let everybody know that are a little bit different from when I read the instructions on signing up in advance. I'll call it out and then we'll see. This one, so this is a public hearing. After hearing the material, the two presentations, if anybody has any comments that they want to make, they'd have the 3 minutes that we could do. And the other one is going to be when we get to the superintendent, I think it's item A on the candidacy announcements. Again, you didn't have to sign up in advance for that. That's for those that are here to make that announcement. But let us just deal with this one. Having heard our public hearing report, is there anybody that wanted to have any comments made? Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. All right, Dr. Kraft, I think we're ready to move over to superintendent's report.
Okay, there are a few things going on the month of February. So first and foremost, good evening to everyone. I want to recognize our student ambassadors, and if it's okay, if we could just take a moment, if I can have you guys step to the podium just to introduce yourself and which campus you represent. Just real quickly, I hate to put you on the spot, but this is always good practice.
They're used to it.
Hello, y'all. Can y'all hear? Awesome. Okay, my name is Brianna Hunt. Y'all can call me Bree. I'm from Clark High School. Go Cougars. I am a proud NISD student ambassador, also president of Taffy. I'm Miss Hunt to my little third graders. How awesome am I know? It's very nice to be here tonight and nice to meet all of you.
Thanks, Bree.
Hi, my name is Abigail Alvarado, and I go to Harlan High School.
All right.
Hi, I'm Olivia Rosas, and I go to Cass Teach High School, and I am a proud junior and proud student of Northside.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brian Gonzalez. I'm a junior at John Jay SEA Magnet School, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Emma Mills, and I go to Harlan High School.
Did we get everybody? So for public consumption, the Ambassadors Program is a new program we started this year. And really the intent was not only to assist us in telling the great stories that we know transpire each and every day across the district and across our campuses, but they also assist, and the students had the opportunity, which I'll talk a little bit more detail here momentarily, to attend Rally Day, PTA Rally Day in Austin. Jordan Wagner is in the audience. She did a phenomenal job of organizing, and they agreed, the council agreed to allow our ambassadors to attend that rally, but then also engage in the legislative process. And so I think it was a great trip yesterday. Again, Ms. Freeman, Ms. Saldana, and Dr. Blunt were able to attend as well. Like I say, you guys were the highlight. I don't know if you were aware of this or not, but I received so many compliments from individuals that are pretty regular attendees in the Capitol, and they were very impressed. And your blazers look great. So, like I say, you'll see them obviously at various events. They will assist with stewards. They'll, like I say, have the opportunity to engage with our community, and they've proven to be just really gems for the district. So thank you guys, and thank you for being here this evening. All right, so a lot going on. Special Olympics kicked off Monday, and it will be through this week. So enjoy the beautiful weather if you have the opportunity to come just right out the back door to Gus Stadium and support our Special Olympians. We'll be there tomorrow with the opening ceremony, and look forward to, like I say, a nice day of weather, and like I say, getting to watch students have fun and compete. Friday is American Heart Disease as well as Rare Disease Day. So we're encouraging staff to wear red. We have a very special individual at Scarborough Elementary School, has a rare disease, and like I say, want to recognize her without breaking any confidentiality. Really, point of pride is her teacher and school nurse. Just they do so much, going above and beyond to take care of her and her health needs. Last week we had Sphero Olympics. This was the second annual Sphero Olympics. If you're not familiar, this is our middle school coding 7th grade GT program, and so the little circular, I call them, well, they're spheres. These are actually like mini robots, and so the students, they will code to perform the different objectives. And I was kind of watching it. After 45 minutes, I still, after 2 years actually, I still don't exactly understand what it is they do, but it's impressive because they do navigate some pretty extreme obstacles. I think this year the theme was the kind of the Winter Olympics, so it was really a great event. High school basketball is starting to wrap up. We want to congratulate our Brennan Lady Bears. They had a phenomenal season. They came up just a little bit short this past Saturday in the regional championship against Cibolo Steel, but went into overtime, and it was really a hard-fought game. On the boys' side, Sotomayor Wildcats, they gave up a tough one to Stony Point, and John Jay came up short against Alamo Heights here in our sports gym, but they were down about 10 with, I believe, 3 minutes left and fought all the way back within one. They just couldn't quite finalize the deal. And then Harlan is playing tonight at St. Mary's against Clements, and the Brennan Bears boys have East Central and San Antonio ISD at the Alamo Convention Center, so we wish them the best of luck. There's only a couple more weeks, and basketball will be in the books, as they say. Want to congratulate all of our Texas Thespians and the Theater Scholar Award recipients. We're going to be bringing them to a board meeting here in the future, but we have representatives from, I believe, 7 of our high schools, which is pretty awesome. This is obviously to recognize not only their scholarly work in the classroom, but also their performance on the stage. Wernley and Ott and Burke, thank you, are still, like I say, they're reading. I know that some of you had the opportunity to attend Ott last week with the chili cook-off. I had the pleasure of reading Armadillo Chili, which I had never read before.
You did? That's what you read?
It was a great book, yeah. It was fun. So, and then I ate chili, so I had to ask, was this armadillo that I'm eating? And speaking of reading, we had a great event with Library Palooza. Cheryl Stoic, as you probably know, I know, like I say, Ms. Saldana and Ms. Freeman had the opportunity to attend Saturday as well. It was it was really well attended considering the weather. It was not ideal, obviously, this past weekend, but we had visiting authors that showed up, and it was really neat to see the students that obviously like to read, but also kind of future authors, and just hearing the author stories and really motivation. We received a lot of positive feedback of note. About 30% of the attendees were actually students from outside of Northside ISD.
Wow.
So a lot of students attended via bus from other school districts. In fact, as far as Houston, actually. So it's an event that continues to grow. This year was, I believe, the 12th annual. And like I say, you can see a photo. It was, like I say, very, very well attended event given the weather. So again, thank you to our librarians and library services for all of their hard work in preparing another successful event. Want to congratulate our CREST awardees. This is the National School Counselors Award. We had numerous campuses that received CREST awards again, and so we greatly appreciate our counselors and all of their hard work, and definitely need to be recognized. We also had a great former superintendent luncheon. I know this seems like it was probably ages ago at this point, but it was really neat to catch up with, like I say, some of our trustees and former superintendents that we all learn and grow from. Congratulations to our FFA and really the Walter Gerlach board. They had a really successful auction, and this is obviously again a culmination of a lot of hard work with students' projects. They raised a little over $1.3 million this year that goes towards benefiting higher education aspirations and student scholarship funds. So quite a bit of money actually was raised. We also want to congratulate our Texas Academic Decathlon regional winners. Warren High School won the region and so was automatically admitted to the state meet, which occurs this weekend. It will be at UTSA. O'Connor High School was second, and Marshall High School was third. Clark came in fourth, just slightly behind, 13 points behind Marshall, and so it was a pretty contested academic decathlon, so we wish them the best of luck at state, along with Health Careers High School, which is actually ranked number 1 in the small school division, and they'll be at Collin County College in Frisco for their state meet. Also, along with academic decathlon, Diana Johnson, who is one of the HCA coaches, she was named the small school coach of the year for academic decathlon. So congratulations to Ms. Johnson. Appreciate all of her hard work. Absolutely. Swimming and diving wrapped up. We had state competitors from all of our high schools actually, and so it was really amazing to see the number of athletes that competed. So again, congratulations to all of our swimming and diving athletes. Cheer, we have another national champion this year. Sotomayor High School was the gold medalist in the novice varsity crowd leading. Did a great job, and like I say, all of our cheerleaders and teams placed. Holmes second in intermediate non-tumbling, Jay in third in intermediate non-tumbling with the JV and freshman. Just to mention a few others, Warren second in advanced non-tumbling varsity crowd leading, and Brennan second in the intermediate varsity performance. But they all, like I say, placed. So congratulations to our cheerleaders. Speaking of Sotomore, we had the privilege of having Justice Sotomore attend, and really, I thought, did a phenomenal job in visiting with the students. I think that she was not only very, very intelligent, but just left such an impression on the students at Sotomore. So greatly enjoyed her visit and getting to know Justice Sotomore. It's really, boy, talk about a service. I knew that there was a lot of work that went into that type of responsibility, but once you have the opportunity to really understand not only the hearing of really important matters in case law, but really establishing precedents with the issuance of the opinions, that's the part that I thought was just really interesting. So again, thanks to our Sotomayor Orchestra, culinary arts students, our police, security, and really the entire staff at Sotomayor High School. They went above and beyond in making that a really special visit. And then again, PTA Rally Day yesterday. It was a great day, beautiful weather. Luckily, it wasn't what we were wrestling with on Saturday. But I think that, like I say, our ambassadors had the opportunity to visit not only a student caucus that morning, the adults had an adult parent staff caucus as well, and then we went to the rally, and then were able to get into the Capitol building. So you see a couple of photos. The student ambassadors had the opportunity actually to visit both chambers, both the House as well as the Senate. They had the opportunity to hear from one of the legislative aides actually in the House Education Committee hearing room, and then had the opportunity to visit Chairman Buckley, who is the chairman of public education, his office, and visit with his staff, and particularly his chief of staff, to just kind of gain a little bit better understanding of how all the legislative process really works. So again, thanks to our student ambassadors, and thank you for all coming back. We were counting as they departed, counting when they got off the bus, and then counting when they got back on. So again, Ms. Wagner, thank you, and Monica Falconberry, Dinah Ely, they served also as chaperones, and hopefully it was a great educational opportunity for our students. And then finally, you know, we're watching this legislative session very, very intently. Today was the first day for the House Public Education Committee to actually meet. And again, just as a reminder, legislation cannot pass within the first 60 days of the session unless it's deemed an emergency item. So long way to go, but bills pertaining to instructional materials, elections, particularly tax ratification elections or VADERs, bond elections, the STAR assessment, which you just, the information you just received with the taper, as well as House Bill 3. Hang on. It may all get ready, it may be getting ready to change once again. I do think that there's going to be a push for more of an interim assessment type testing model, as well as military readiness. Talking about CCMR, you know, how do we measure CCMR and particularly military readiness? I do think that House Bill 3 and Senate Bill 2, which are the education savings account bills deemed as emergency items, are probably going to be taken up here pretty quickly. I think that there will be a intermediate form of both bills that will have to be worked out in conference committee, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I anticipate that those will be taken up pretty quickly. And then everything from funding, special education funding. Dr. Harrell, you mentioned discipline being reworked, particularly with Chapter 37. Like I say, there were a lot of bills, legislative bills, or legislative action in relation to public education bills dropped just this past week. So that's indicative that we're about to pick up a lot of inertia in both chambers as it pertains to the legislative session. So we'll be watching and providing updates very intently. I think that leads us to, unless there are any other questions, or any questions, we do have a video moment. Tonight's video moment highlights our Even Start program, which is a federally funded Title I program. And it really utilizes a family-centered model, empowers families to support their child's social, emotional, academic, and academic success by integrating early childhood education, adult education, parent enrichment, and interactive literacy activities. So without further ado, I think we're ready to show you exactly what the Even Start program here in Northside ISD entails.
Inhalamos. Sometimes you need a helping hand. A community of people who care enough to see you shine. That's what Northside's Even Start program is all about.
In the Even Start Family Literacy Program, we help families and their children.
Even Start coordinator Brenda Foz Villarreal says the program teaches English and other valuable skills essential to success.
So the program is at 5 campuses in Northside. We work with Title I families. We're under the Whole Child Development Department.
It also addresses another obstacle some people have when it comes to learning new skills.
I want to go learn the language, but what do I do with my children? I have my babies at home.
The solution is simple. Create a place where both parents and children can learn.
They bring their infants, toddlers, and 3-year-olds with them. And so while they're learning, the children are learning as well in an early childhood classroom.
There's also a parent-child time so families can learn together.
Simple activities that they know they can do then replicate at home, and do those at home and continue teaching their children.
Now, to find out if the program really works, we talked to 3 people who've been through it: Sarah, Elsie, and Rosa.
My first goal was take a GED to get a job and continuous learning and care my babies.
For Sarah and her children, the hard work paid off.
Now my daughter and my son, they are doing good in a school.
And Sarah went from Even Start student to Even Start employee.
I love it. I love this job.
Rosa and Elsie say they're not sure where they would be right now without the program.
I was like here by myself. I don't have any family here, so I was like, yeah, that sounds great.
Like her, I don't have a family here, so that's amazing for me.
After the program, their lives were changed once again when they both got jobs at Burke Elementary.
And I was excited, and also I was nervous because I'm like, my English is not perfect, but I know I can do a good job.
School principal Dr. Marissa Pena says hiring them was an easy decision.
They've been fantastic. I think that what sets them apart is their work ethic and their willingness, obviously, to learn new things.
We've had some students, they come to ESL, then they go to GED. They want to get their GED. After that, then they might go to technical classes, or they might go to, a university.
Okay, that's great.
Sometimes you just need a helping hand.
These are easy words.
I feel like I'm part of the community now. I'm not afraid to go out to the store and ask questions.
A little spark to ignite a flame that helps guide you through the darkness to a world of new adventures.
We feel that this program not only helps the adult, not only helps the child, but it helps the entire family to be successful.
It's a pretty awesome program. And again, this is just really an illustration of what we do even well beyond our pre-K through 12 experience, and just helping families and the community raise all ships. So pending any questions, that concludes my report, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kraft. There are no questions or further comments for the superintendent's report. We'll go ahead and go over to board member reports. I'm sure we do. We'll start over to our right. Trustee Ron.
Thank you. I want to thank the principal and all of the faculty and leadership at high school, Sotomayor, because they did a phenomenal job hosting that event, and she really enjoyed engaging with the students, so just want to thank her. I want to thank the students that are in the audience today, that are graduate students visiting us to get the experience of a board meeting. So Mayra and Vanessa, if you're in the house, thank you for coming. And please continue to come. It's very important that people engage in school board meetings now more than ever. I want to also congratulate all the graduates from the February 10th graduation we had. It was really nice to see folks graduate early, but then also there was students crying, so that was very emotive for me, because you don't know what it took for them to actually walk that stage. And so that's an amazing graduation for me every time. I do also want to let the community know that we have scholarships available right now for high school seniors through the seekleft.org, and that goes in the newsletter that Barry sends out, so I'll continue to post that, because it's a phenomenal opportunity for students to have $2,500 to go to college. So I'm involved with that process, so please reach out if you need any guidance for that. I ran into a student today that went to Connolly, and I was her coach. And she's gonna be running for public office soon, so it was really cool to see her little eyes look at me like, I think I know you. And I'm like, I think I know you too. And then finally we realized she was a great basketball player. So she's excited to run for public office, which is exciting for us in these times, right? So thank you all for all you do.
Thank you, Trustee Duran. Trustee Hall, you don't have to push anything. Maybe you do.
I don't want to get out of practice. One of my students from CASMED got the scholarship, and he framed this picture of getting a hug with Carla. That's so neat. Sadly, he used the money to go to A&M, but I won't hold that against him. He's in the Corps, and, you know, he's very happy. So I still keep in touch, so it does mean a lot. So thank you. Dr. Kraft, you were right. It was a busy month, just incredibly fun busy, though. I just wanted to announce that Saturday, if anyone in the room wants a real incredible experience, John Jay Science Engineering Academy has their STEM Fest. It's from 10 to 1, and it's totally student-driven. And so get there early, because there's so much to see. If you get there 11 or 12, you're going to miss some things because they have so many things. And it's just so much fun. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that the weather's good because part of it's outdoors.
It's going to be great.
It's at NAC?
No, it's at John Jay.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard NAC.
It's at John
Okay,
Jay.
sorry. I'm not hard of hearing. I'm just hearing other things.
Where is it at?
Oh, where's it at?
Where is
It's
it
at
at?
John Jay. Oh, NAC and NAT. Okay, I gotcha. I love it. The other thing, many other things, I got to be a keynote speaker at this outdoor education conference where Carnahan was part of the panelists, and Lucy Gomez and her staff blew everybody away with all the things they're doing at Carnahan. And Lucy tells this wonderful story about the worms in the compost, and her face just like curls up and when she talks about it, but they are composting like nobody's business. It is phenomenal. And so I encourage you to go out and see that. They did a phenomenal presentation, but Amalia Solers, who's with our environmental science program here, also helped put it on. And so Northside is really seen as a North Star in this area. And that was just a real delight. I got to pass out the Teacher of the Year awards at Rawlinson, and it was delightful because both of the teachers, there was a veteran teacher and a new teacher, and they both cried together. And so I was crying, the kids were crying, but it was Amy Serta King, who was a veteran teacher, and Jorge Santos, he's the assistant band director. Phenomenal. He even wears Hawaiian shirts that have instruments on them. So it was terrific. I got to take a team. I think Dr. Kraft and Dr. Ridgely and I had been invited to a mental health conference that Region 20 hosted, and I committed to taking a team to Austin to talk to various senators and representatives, and they actually had a mental health and school safety advocacy day. So I took a team. I took Judge Oscar Kazin from the mental health courts. I took Jessica Weaver, who's the CEO of Communities and Schools, along with Janae Margot Gonzalez with CIS. And then two students, Jasper and Anna from Cast Teach, and their principal, Erica Olivares, went to, so Jasper and Erica could talk about their wellness room that they had started their 9th grade year in project-based learning and how it's almost finished. They received a Northside Education Foundation grant. They were the first students ever to receive that. And so true to form, Dr. Kraft, they did not want to, although they really did like Judge Kaysen because he's so jovial. He's just lots of fun. But he actually put money in perspective, and they talked about how it costs about $5,000 to create high school wellness rooms for students, and how counselors were monitoring it so that if there were students coming in on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, they were able to provide extended services, which was a really good thing to hear. But he said that only costs $5,000 a year. We're talking about defendants who come to his courtroom needing $5,000 a week of treatment per defendant. And so it really helped the lawmakers understand that, although we only got to talk to staff. We went to all Senate Pub Ed, and it was staff only, which is okay. But, and then Senator Menendez did mention the students by name in his final speeches on Senate Bill 3 on the floor, which was delightful, and also highlighted all the choices in Northside. So that was a real plus. Bobby, I'm still in it to win it on the minutes for reading. I don't know where our minutes are, but put a competition in front of me, and I'm all about it. But Kruger Elementary School invited me to speak with Ms. Bayardo's class, and they were phenomenal. I do the same book, I Wish I Were a Butterfly, and they were all flapping, and it was wonderful. And so thanks to Kruger. Lock Hill, I read to all their third grade classes, and Mr. Desmond De Leon, they wrote a song about, did you ever see Dr. Harrell do a great big snarl? And so we all did snarls, and that was lots of fun. But he actually played music to I Wish I Were a Butterfly. So thanks to Lock Hill. I went to Ellison's fifth grade and read a book about fossil hunters, which is Mary Anning, who's exact same age as a fifth grader, and how she found, was in the 1800s, discovered a whole dinosaur body, and they were like really in it, and we pretended that we were doing that at 4 in the morning when she would go out. But anyway, that was lots of fun, and so thank you to Ellison. We also, there were several of us who went to Clark to see the Cinderella production. That was outstanding. But what was remarkable was there were oldies but goodies there. Mr. Rosenblatt, who had been the original band director, showed up, and he was delightful. Oh my gosh, he's just so quick on his feet. And then Chuck Kuntz was also there, and Chuck is my brother-in-law, so I adored that he got to come. And so he and Mr. Rosenblatt were just like reminiscing all about the band programs and how marching has changed and all of that, and just sitting there and listening to that. But my mother, my 89-year-old mom, was sitting there, and she had tears in her eyes, and we were talking on the way home, and I didn't realize that my dad had proposed to my mom in high school during a production of Cinderella. And so it was just like a real emotional night. But anyway, so that was really neat. I want to thank, Lucy and Lisa and Diana, Library Palooza. I got there late because there was a diploma dash before that, and I was challenging my students to run it, and then nobody showed up except me. But so I got there a little stinky, but it was so incredible. And 1,200 came, I heard on the news. I don't know if that was the final count, but that was phenomenal. It was interesting at lunch because I sat with the authors, and I was telling them about Senate Bill 13, which could possibly impact our libraries, and they travel all over the United States. And so we are so blessed to have such a robust library program and incredible librarians, and how the libraries are the hubs. And I'm looking at all you guys. The libraries are just like our best place right now for students and staff and visiting dogs who come to get read to, or soothe teachers and students' feelings or emotions. And so just kudos to our libraries. One thing about Justice Sotomayor, and you said it very well, both of you did, she was incredible. She touched all our hearts. But there was one question I remember asking her about how she was as a student. And she talked about that, her cousins, her aunts and uncles, they would say, don't grow up like Sonia. Because she asked a lot of questions. And she was a different kind of kiddo. And she might have even been on the spectrum. According to her, she was very hyperactive. But now they're saying, be like Sonia, right? So, time will tell. But she did say that being in a library and a librarian made a lot of difference in her life, that reading and having a librarian that helped her, and that's where she really fine-tuned her English. And so that was wonderful. It was another testimonial to our librarians, but certainly to her as a phenomenal role model. We couldn't have picked a better person. PTA Founders Day, thanks to Holmes, it was really good. The kids were outstanding. It was the PTA Founders Days just keep getting better and better. And I had one other thing. We already said Special Olympics, but I don't know if Valerie's here, but I got some emails about our bowling program and how a lot of students don't participate in it because it's financially not feasible. So we met about that and we brainstormed ideas to have fundraisers and some other things. Valerie was really instrumental in that. We met with the two coaches and actually meeting with the bowling lane owners and trying to bring that price down. The interesting thing is that there's a large scholarship niche for young ladies. So encouraging our young ladies to join our bowling leagues was another goal. So get the price down so we get more, because it'll serve students in another way. And bowling just maybe sounds a little comical, but as many ways as we can get our kids involved is kind of what we're looking for. So we have our marching orders on that. Other than that, go, if you want a real jolt, go to STEM Fest and go to Special Olympics this week. Thank you.
All right, thank you,
I told you it was a
Trustee
busy
Hall.
week. It was a busy week.
Dave, you got anything, Trustee Salcido?
Yeah, I got I want to thank the principal up at and her staff up at Odd Elementary. I think Dr. Crab mentioned about the chili cook-off. I believe they had like 14 entries. One of the ones I picked was the winner, so I was surprised that they gave us a little gift back at the end. I started looking through it, I had a roll of Tums, so I really needed them after 14 little bowls of chili. Yeah, it came in handy, so. Yeah, and on Monday, my wife and I attended the opening ceremonies for the Special Olympics. The smiles and the excitement on those kids' faces was priceless. It was just like they had a lot of fun out there. I was surprised there was mariachis from Fisher Elementary. I didn't know we were in elementary level now, but supposedly there's a club out there. There were like 20 kids from Fisher Elementary, and they're all dressed up in mariachi. And I'm like, okay, we're getting into elementary now, so yeah, we're starting young. So I knew we had middle school and high school. I didn't know we had some in elementary level. How was that?
Yeah.
I want to give another side note is keep our thoughts and prayers for Miss Evangelina Rojas. She's a counselor up at Passport Elementary. She suffered an incident in August up at the school. I spoke to her son yesterday. She's had 13 surgeries already, so she's still in the hospital. The reason I mentioned her, she's been teaching for over 50 years in the district. So she's got dedicated basically her whole life to our district. And so I'm keeping in touch with her son. I told him to keep me the status and see how it goes. But she's been in the hospital since August, so that's a long time to be in the hospital. So just keep her in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Salcido. Trustee Saldana?
Okay, busy month, but I'll start with the NCAA reading contest because huge shout outs to the schools in my district because we've really had fun. Thornton, Rhodes, McDermott, Meade, Colonies North. Houseman was incredible because Houseman has the dual language. So I read in English and in Spanish and all those kids understood everything I was saying. I was very surprised, but it was fun. Cable has my number. They've had me over there 3 times already. Glen Oaks, Ott at the chili cook-off, and we read to all of the 3rd grade class. So we had them all in the library, and I read to all of them, and I read Nachos. Had never read that book, but it was a true story, and it was so much fun. When we finished reading it, we all wanted nachos. And then Carnahan Elementary. The dual language program at Houseman was incredible. I was so impressed with the teachers, the kids. You know, I was speaking to them in both languages, or speaking to me in both languages. It was really fun. The Justice Sotomayor visit, gosh, I don't think that any of us can say enough, because that lady shared with us, she's 70 years old, and Sotomayor has like a 2-story auditorium. She walked up the stairs and went all the way to the top so that the kids at the top could see her face close up. And every question that was asked of her by a student, soon as they were done, let me take a picture with you. And she would take a picture with the kids. She was just amazing with those high school kids, and the kids were amazing. The school did a great, great job. I can't say enough about the staff at Sotomayor, because it was an incredible visit. Cinderella, the musical at Clark, so much fun. Those of you who can need to go to our high schools and see the performances. And if you're a veteran or a senior citizen, you get to go free, get your go-kart, and go to those performances. The go-kart allows them to go to any of our plays. I visited with the student ambassadors on a Saturday morning here at NAC, and I swear, Valerie Sisk and Diana Ely and Monica Falconberry, I don't know what else y'all can do, but they're amazing with these kids, and we are so grateful for you all, and just love seeing y'all everywhere we go. Founders Day at Holmes was, for me, especially emotional, because that's where I worked for 33 years. So just seeing all the videos that they were showing, seeing the mariachis, I mean, it was just so much fun. So thank you to that campus. Mid-year graduation, we can't say enough. There were so many kids there who got their diplomas from Chavez Academy. They didn't give up. They got their diploma. And then we had so many other adults who got a GED diploma also. Cable, I told y'all they have my number. I first went to see them at their enrichment day. They invited me to come and see them read. These were first graders. They were reading real books, not little papers that are put together that all rhyme. They were reading real books. I read with one child who did not miss one word, and it was a regular child's book, but he read it beautifully. Then I read with another child who was struggling, but she would get everything just by doing phonics, and she would figure the word out. I didn't have to help her. She just did it till she got it. So our first grade teachers are obviously doing an incredible job teaching our kids how to read, because I was amazed. And then I had to go back and to cable because they found out I was a math teacher, so they wanted me to come and see their math class. So I went back to cable and we did math. And again, they're just such neat first graders. Student Voice, one of my favorite events in Northside. We had one last week, and we're having another one this week. The chili cook-off at Ott was so much fun because those teachers are very strong competitors. They're the ones who make the chili, and we had to vote on them. But it was fun. Library Palooza, Dr. Harrell, you're right. It was a really special day. The PTA rally, Jordan, you and the PTA, I don't know where you are, but you and the PTA council did an incredible job of getting all of us there, taking us to the rally, having lunch with the kids, and then going in to talk to some of our legislators. They may not listen to us, but that day they had to sit there and watch us and listen to us. Our coaches, like Dr. Kraft said, we're coming to an end in basketball, but we just can't thank our coaches enough, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of hours, whether it's swimming or whether it's golf or whether it's football, basketball, soccer. Thank you, coaches. You know, I know that some of them are just starting, some of them are finishing, but we thank you for providing our kids with that opportunity. Congratulations to the Sotomayor Band for winning $20,000 in the Metallica contest. And then finally, I went to the Special Olympics today, and the opening ceremony is so incredible. It was so much fun to see those kids and then see themselves on the video board. So that was an amazing thing to watch today. So I encourage the trustees. It's still on the rest of the week. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Trustee Saldana. Trustee Guevara, you have anything? Yeah?
I'm gonna try, I'm
that's
gonna
right.
try to get through this really
Very
quick.
white voice? Never mind, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't have a voice, but I do want to give a shout out to Warren High School for inviting me to their signing day for their student athletes on February the 4th. On February the 13th, thanks to Holmes and Inside High Schools for inviting me to their family science night and military fair night. I got to pump air in pigs' lungs. That was pretty neat at that time. The following day, thanks to Ms. Trevino, counselor at Ward Elementary, for inviting me to celebrate the Pillars of Character, where I gave, the keynote address at 2 different ceremonies. And I was also made an honorary pillar of the community there, so that was pretty neat. There's nothing scarier than presenting to a cafeteria full of kindergartners, first graders, and second graders. But, so I survived that. On February the 18th, I, along with trustees Blunt and Freeman, attended the TASB Legislative Conference, and then went on over to the Capitol to advocate for public education, to advocate for Northside, visiting with the chiefs of staff for Representatives Bernal, Tallarico, and Garcia. And I would have loved to have attended the chili cook-off. I had RSVP'd, but I've been serving jury duty for the last 4 working days, so I've missed out on a few things. And just a quick point of personal privilege, I'd like to give a shout out to my dad. He is celebrating his 80th birthday today. And so happy birthday, Dad. Love you. Save me a plate. Okay.
Thank you, Trustee Guevara. Trustee Freeman?
Thank you, Mr. Blunt. As a point of personal privilege, I have spoken with someone who is working on her nurse practitioner's license, and I hope she's here. I was going to try to find her before. Gloria, please stand so we can all see you. Gloria, part of her studies, she needs to come to a board meeting, and so she had called me, and so we've talked about what board members do, and we've reviewed this agenda, so she knew all about what we were going to discuss. And Gloria is actually interested in expanding school-based clinics, much like we have with our Shirley Schreiber clinic. So perhaps you'll be working with Northside someday. There's certainly a lot that goes into that, but thank you, Gloria, for being here. As you have heard so many things, I will talk about the NCAA read. So Mr. Blunt, thank you for getting us involved in that. We can't wait to hear who's in the Elite 8 soon, I guess. I have had the opportunity to read to several schools, including Helotes, Henderson, Kuntz, Los Reyes, Scobie, and Steuben. And I will tell you, I've sat on the floor with little kids. We've read in the libraries. We've read in Kuntz's Corner. We've done all kinds of things with the kids. And it's amazing how kids just love, I mean, I read to my grandkids all the time, but a large group of kids in a classroom, how much they enjoy having books read to them. So my favorite, I got to tell you, Legend of Rock, Paper, Scissors, write these down. My Mouth is a Volcano, and If I Built a School. So those are my 3 favorites. The kids just enjoyed it, and we interacted, and a whole lot of fun. Scobie and Steuben, of course, they have a special place in my heart. My kids started at Scobie, and when Steuben opened, I had 2 that went to Steuben. And they truly made it special. They knew that I'd been there, and even there are some people there that were there when my kids were there. So very special, and I appreciate what they went to make me feel welcomed. I got to put a coin in the book vending machine, and it makes all kinds of noises, and it's just really cool. And they had balloon things, and great opportunity to visit with the kids. Sotomayor's visit, she was truly special, and truly when she talked to the kids, you could tell she was really interested in what they had to say. But I thought what also was interesting to me, there was, 2,200, 2,300 at Sotomayor, and I can't imagine being principal. You've got the Supreme Court justice, and you've got a whole room full of, an auditorium full of kids. Those kids, you could hear a pin drop in that auditorium when she was speaking. They were so polite, so attentive, and thank you to all of them. The culinary arts crew, they cooked a wonderful, wonderful lunch for us. It was just a great visit with them. And then the band, who heard of a Metallica concert, right, or whatever, $20,000. I hope the school told Justice Sotomayor about that. I know she would be very proud. PTA Founders Day, great event. Thanks to if it wasn't for our PTAs and the work that they do at the school, so many things just wouldn't happen. And they give of their time. And I met so many PTA volunteers as I was reading in the school. They were actually part of the PTA board at that school, and they were substitute teaching. So I know many of our PTA people are volunteer are substitute teachers in our schools, and they do a whole lot. The Warren Board Dinner recognition, they during Board Appreciation Month, they hosted us, and the culinary arts cooked a wonderful dinner for us, and this was probably the first time we actually had a menu to select from. So that was real interesting. The food was wonderful. The fine arts presentations, display of artwork, school went just all out in welcoming us and in appreciation, and certainly appreciated all their efforts. The former board superintendent luncheon. You saw the picture of everybody up there. I got to tell you, I think that was one of the largest that we've had in a very long time. And we always talk about when we have former board members and former superintendents together, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And truly, the culture that we've built in this school district began a long time ago, and we continue to build on that culture of excellence, and we learn from those that have gone before us. So it was a wonderful event to share stories, and also an opportunity for them to learn what's going on in Northside today. Congratulations to the Gerlach Show, the FFAs, the 4-H groups. It's a lot of work on behalf of the booster organizations. They turn what was a stock show or was a show into all of a sudden an auction, and moving hay and everything out of that place just takes a vast amount of work. Congratulations to them and those kids. And mid-year graduation, you've heard about the TASBY Ledge Conference that we had the opportunity to go to. Thank you to our own Kelly Rasty, who's now with TASBY as the Associate Executive Director for what is her title? Government Relations. Thank you very much. Went blank for a while. She's done a really good job, put a panel of folks together for us to hear, and then the opportunity to, again, go to the Capitol and talk with staff of some of our representatives, those friendly, those not so friendly sometimes, but we had a really good time at the Capitol. Library Palooza. It's amazing how interesting these authors are. They tell the kids, one of the things that they do is the authors present to the kids in an auditorium and talk to them about how they became an author. And that's really interesting stories if you haven't been. And I know that in the spring there's something similar for our elementary grade levels. It's called Library Fest, Mrs. Ely. I'm sorry, Story Fest. Okay, so we'll look for that coming in the spring, same type of thing. And PTA Rally Day, wonderful event. I'm so proud of our student ambassadors. You were mentioned so many times. So welcome Northside students, ambassadors, and you were noticed. You were very professional as you presented yourself. And I got to tell you, the story that KSAT did was phenomenal. And y'all as speakers and representing the student ambassadors, it was just great job. I'm hoping that maybe we can post that. If it's not, perhaps it's already posted on our Northside website, but it was a great intro to what happened at that. Yes, it was just yesterday with the student ambassadors. And Bobby and I had the opportunity to walk into Senator Campbell's office and spoke to his staffer. And the first thing he said, he asked us about our culinary arts group. And he remembers that because it wasn't too very long ago that we invited our Bexar County delegation to meet at Warren High School, and the culinary arts department prepared lunch, and he remembered that, and he said he still talks about that. So at least that made an impression. And Dr.
More than our conversation. But
Yeah. We had the opportunity to talk about Senator Campbell's cell phone bill. So we do know, we had heard that bill has gone from 7 pages to 4 now, so less prescriptive, more local control, which is what we've asked for. I don't know if it's been filed yet, but.
I believe it was dropped earlier last week.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And then Rooted, I don't know if any of you know Rooted. Rooted is an organization, it's a pro-public ed, grassroots parent organization promoting neighborhood schools. The founder of that program, Genevieve Sokolowski, had a gathering the other night of which Sophie Torres from Raise Your Hand was there, and some other people, and we were talking about pro-public ed events, where we are in advocacy, what's going on at the Capitol, and parents there looking for ways that they can help us out. A lot going on. That probably is enough, Mr. Blunt.
Thank you, Trustee.
you.
Let me try to do a real fast version, just a couple items, because y'all covered things extremely well. Something else that we had the Department of Energy National Science Bowl competition. We as Northside sponsored a regional competition. It's one of the few that includes public, private, charter, homeschools. Everybody's involved with that. Came down to basis and health careers. That's last year, and basis got health careers again this year, so they'll be going on to the national. So, but it's a good competition, and thanks to Northside Science, Stacy, for really organizing and helping us continue that. It's our 23rd year, by the way. Some of the major sponsors for it on the Air Force side, as well as Booz Allen, are actually going to be recognized during the Northside Education Foundation's partnerships because of their long-term service. Teacher scholarships that the board is doing. We had 23 submittals for the board teacher scholarship. And board members, make sure to look at your mail. We're down to looking at three more to look at, so we can figure out who we're going to be able to give them. We have one that was clear cut, and we've got 3 more, and we'll decide whether we give out 2 or 3. But it was great. So thanks to the board for providing that opportunity for those students in Northside that want to pursue a teaching opportunity, this particular scholarship. PTA rally as well as our TASB visit, but both great. Thank you for doing that, Jordan, again. It was fun talking to the different legislatures. I tried to help them out a little bit with some suggestions on some things and how they can help us out with some of the bills, and gave them language accordingly. We'll probably never see that again. But nevertheless, we tried, okay? And then the last one that you've heard a couple of times. So the Final Four reading competition, we started out at 307 elementary schools. At 9:15 a.m. tomorrow, they announced the Elite 8. So hopefully Burke, Ott, and Worley are within that, but that's going to happen tomorrow. And then the trustee one that we're having in parallel, if we get out of this meeting pretty soon, we're going to announce who our final 8 are also. I just got to add it up at midnight, et cetera. So it's tough. I'm going to tell you, it's going to be tough, but we'll see how we do in that particular regard. And last thing I'll bring up is it has been great. I do want to revise or update one statement. I'm not going to say the full statement since we're being recorded, that I made at the PTA Founders Day. I still am taking on that challenge, and the word has gotten out. What I said the new goal is, or updated goal is, I'm going to try to read at all 83 elementary schools by the end of April. So we got a little work to do. I'm about 23 in so far, so we got a little work to do. But I did say, I'll do that then, but 1 year from now, I did say I want to read to every single student, elementary school student. So we'll see if we can make that. And last thing I'll bring up on that, it's been great not only for the reading part of it, but I tell you, we had a debate today. I don't know how my reading turned into a debate, but that's how it goes. With first graders, 40 against 1 on whether or not we should have homework for first graders. You know who the one was. But nevertheless, it was a great discussion, so we get some other value out of it. And that's all we have on our board members report.
Mr. President, the first update, Harlan 13, Clements 9 at the end of first.
Oh, okay. This is a basketball game.
So
thank you.
Probably more importantly is, do we need to issue a directive that there's no more homework for first graders?
It's very, if you ask them, 'cause they have some.
Yeah, and I forgot, the student ambassadors reminded me, Taffy is kind of a new, not a new competition, but Northside's taken it by storm. And Cass Teach had 16 medalists and 10 national qualifiers. And that's unheard of because it's very small. So thank you for bringing that up. Thanks for being in Taffy, whether you're at Cass Teach or any of our other high schools that have Taffy. You know how impressive that is. So future teachers, come back. Yay. Thanks.
All
Bob.
right, thank you. So I think that completes our trustees report. We're very busy, as you indicated.
Yes, sir.
So next we have our
I think we have our recognitions up next. So, Dr. Jordan?
You want the
Yeah,
the board to come
trustees will
around?
join us in front of the dais.
All right, good evening. As y'all are walking forward, I'm honored to recognize some outstanding leaders in the Curriculum and Instruction Division who are making a notable difference. Learning Forward Texas is a professional organization focusing on ensuring the professional development of leaders throughout our state. Each year, they bestow an award which recognizes excellence in professional learning and educator development. I'm pleased to announce that the 2025 Professional Learning Award from Learning Forward is being given to our very own Professional Learning Department for their development and implementation of the new teacher coaching program that has resulted in an increase in retention of our novice teachers. So this program is truly unique. And I know I've been asked about it from colleagues in other districts. So what it does is it uses the talents of retired educators to coach and support first-year teachers with an emphasis on those who are alternatively certified. It was designed by Miss Katie Bazzani and Arden McLean under the leadership of Natalie Gray and Diana Ely. Over 3,100 hours of support were provided to 352 teachers, resulting in the retention of all of these teachers, except for 6 over a 2-year period. And the 6 that weren't retained, some were moving. It wasn't because they weren't successful. So with us tonight is Debbie Tanton, Business Director of Learning Forward. If you'll stand, yes, so we can recognize you. And then, of course, our amazing coaches, if y'all would stand. We have Ann Bohack, Kimberly Bundick, Selena Chambers, Nicole Green, Jennifer Guerrero, Terry Cleric, Jaime Leendo, Crystal Ramirez, Sandra McKenzie, Deborah Spears, and Jackie Swan. That's a lot of talent right there on these 2 rows. At this time, I'd like to ask Specialist Katie Bazzani and Arden McLean, and the Director of Professional Learning, Natalie Gray, and the Executive Director, Diana Ely, to come forward for board recognition. Each year, the Texas Counselors Association bestows a Counselor Supervisor of the Year award to an outstanding counselor at each level. To qualify for this award, the recipient must have professional school counseling experience and leadership responsibilities in supervision, professional learning, program implementation, and program advocacy. It is my pleasure to announce our very own Rolando Juarez as the recipient of the 2025 Texas Counselors Association Supervisor of the Year Award. Rolando, under the direction of Dr. Kimberly Ridgely, has served in NISD for over 17 years in numerous roles, including elementary counselor cluster leader, counselor at Glenn and Driggers Elementary Schools, NISD care clinic coordinator, and now he serves as the coordinator of elementary counseling services. It is my pleasure to present Rolando Juarez for board recognition. Thank you. This concludes the recognitions.
Oh, my goodness, watch out. Okay. 3 pages? Okay.
Here's where we need.
He was, yeah, Stephanie was optimistic.
Yeah, I won't take the password now.
She said that they sent to reset it again.
Okay. Yes, let me know.
We might need to have more hands on deck to actually research what's going on.
Is that one? That's fine. That's all right.
Do you need a laptop anymore?
No, go ahead, I'll figure it out. I'm going to look over with Dr. Kraft. All right. Sorry. All right, so I think we're ready to get back on after our recognitions. We have consent agenda next. Is there a,
Actually, we have.
oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, we have a report.
Qualitrix.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. So, yeah, we do have the report next. So, Dr. Kraft?
Yeah, absolutely. So you probably have, you remember Nick Cohn, who is with Isobar. He is the psychometrician really behind the Qualtrics survey, which is our culture climate survey. If you recall, last year and then again this year, we conducted this survey really to gain a better grasp of how well we're doing in providing services from the perspective of our students, from our staff, from our community. And so we're going to use last year's results, benchmarking to this year's results, building a dashboard, interactive public-facing dashboard as a part of the continuous improvement process. And so this year's results, I think there's a lot of real positives, and then there are some areas that we really need to focus on opportunities for improvement. So, Nick, welcome back to Texas. I know that when we originally scheduled Nick to be here, it was tundra, frozen tundra. So thanks for rearranging your schedule, and welcome back to Texas. It's probably much warmer than it was than when we had originally scheduled. So
it's beautiful today. Yeah,
we're happy to have you.
Thank you, Dr. Kraft. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be back with you. As Dr. Kraft said, it was just under a year ago that I was with you to talk about the first iteration of our stakeholder survey results. And so I think it's timely to have this conversation tonight, given all the wonderful examples we just had of incredible experiences throughout the district. And so as we think about the academic achievement of our students, as we think about all the good things that our staff are doing, as we think about the ways in which we provide and deliver those experiences to all of our stakeholders, it's opportune to have a chance to hear their voice in a little bit different way through both quantitative survey data and qualitative feedback that we can then, make some determinations about how to move forward from an improvement standpoint to make those experiences even better for all of our stakeholders. And so wanted to start tonight. The full report's available to the board. We're also going to, at the end, share a little bit about the public-facing dashboard. But I wanted to highlight just some of the key details and results from this year's survey. I wanted to start with the fact that we had over 71,000 responses to the surveys across multiple stakeholder groups. And so when you think about casting a wide net and gaining that stakeholder voice, it's great to have that number of responses come in, right, from our stakeholders. And so worth celebrating that alone, let alone the results we're going to see. Wanted to talk a little bit about the comparison of this year's results to last year's survey. Generally speaking, the surveys were the same. So the surveys went out again to our third grade and higher students, went out to all of our families who could respond regardless of any students they had in the district, and then to all of our staff. 4 surveys total, so 2 student surveys, 1 at the younger grade levels so that we could tailor that language down a little bit, 1 for our upper level students, and then again for families and staff. The questions remained primarily the same, with the exception of we did add a couple of safety questions this year to the survey that were not in prior year, and we removed some of the 4-day week questions that we had last year. So those weren't in the survey this year. Otherwise, the survey questions were the same. The time frame shifted just a little bit. We were about a month earlier in the survey deployment this year. That really doesn't matter in terms of the psychometrics and sort of the design of the survey. If we had shifted a full season, that might have had an impact, but that month shift keeps us right about where we want to be. We did offer the opportunity for families to opt out their students from taking the survey. We had 56 students who were opted out of the survey this year. And again, Dr. Kraft referenced that in the interest of transparency, we're providing a public-facing dashboard this year that's going to show those results. Before I dive into the student survey, one thing I just wanted to point to, if you think of last year as being a new baseline for us, right, establishing those surveys for the first time, the benefit of year 2 and beyond is that we get to compare those results, right, to prior years. The trick is to understand that if the differences we're seeing are significant or not, right? 1% to 2% shifts in responses, not necessarily statistically significant, and so I'll highlight for you the significant differences both positively and opportunities for improvement within that. Let's start with the student survey. You can see the numbers here. Uptick in elementary responses this year. Secondary remained just about the same. You can see the breakdown of the question sets here. Remember last year we talked a little bit about what's statistically significant in terms of response rate. Anything over 1,100 is considered projectable to the entire community, plus or minus 3%. Even those that did not respond, right? And so our language is then the language of it's projectable, it's representative of the full population. If we were to drill down to an individual campus that had less than 1,100, those percent responses needed to be projectable as much higher. And so as a result of that, we shift our language to say it's representative of those who chose to respond. So above 1,100, projectable to the population. Below that, representative of those who responded. One of the things that's a little different this year is we did categorize our questions into some groups, which allowed us to develop categorical averages. And so the numbers you're seeing here are for the student surveys. These are the categories of questions we asked. They were on a 5-point scale. So if you think about that 5-point average from strongly agree to strongly disagree with a neutral midpoint of neither agree nor disagree, anything above a 3 would be considered better than average. Above a 4 would be considered exceptional in those averages. And again, you can see those categories here. As we go through the survey, I'll break down the questions and statements that were made up within those categories.
Can you explain that one more time? On the 3 and the 4, is that based on, and I think I asked you this last year too, previous years, based on comparing to others that have done similar, or what is that actually based on, that 3 and the 4?
Yeah. So two things. One, if you think about that scale from strongly agree to strongly disagree, right? If the neutral point is 3, anything above that would be considered positive, right? That 4-point scale that we see is typically representative of what we'd see around school districts around the country as being reflective of what you want to see for something that is overly positive, right? So if you think of that average, you have to have a fair amount of strongly agree to get above that 4, right? If you have some that are below that. And so that's the average we would see. We also will look at a percent agreement benchmark of 70% for most stakeholders, 80% for staff, which is also representative of similar districts across the country. So that's where those come from.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you.
You bet. In terms of some of the statements, again, I want to highlight for you just sort of the differences. And so what you'll see here is a series of bars. The darker blue on top is going to be a year ago. The lighter blue below that is going to be this year's administration of the survey. And as you look to, for example, the elementary side within this learning category, nothing here would be considered statistically significantly different, right? So the responses here were pretty much on par from a year ago. We didn't make big gains. There weren't losses. It sort of stayed about the same. In terms of culture and climate, I did want to point to these 3 examples within the elementary. Again, we're talking 3rd through 5th grade students primarily. What you are going to see here, I mentioned that 70% benchmark, right? You're going to notice that the 3 statements that are highlighted here not only dropped from prior year, but were slightly below that 70% benchmark. And those 3 statements were, I'm happy to be at school. The adults in my school greet me by name every day, and I enjoy going to school. The difference between happy and enjoy, happiness is an emotion, how I feel about being in school. Enjoyment is about the culture, climate, and experience of being there. So those statements slightly different. Also at the elementary level, we would encourage staff to want to greet students by name, right? So when they walk in the building, they're feeling that connection and feeling recognized. And again, not big shifts, but enough where that drop was considered statistically significant. Within the safety category, as we look at our elementary results, 2 new safety questions I just wanted to highlight. If I report a safety concern, I'm confident it'll be addressed appropriately. You see that's a very high value. Below that, I feel safe expressing unpopular opinions in class. That's more about peers and the sort of culture that's provided for students to voice a contrary opinion. Those are new baselines, and so we'll be able to do comparisons off that in the future.
Why is one green and one red?
Yeah, highlighting the green being above that 70% benchmark and the red being below that 70% benchmark. In the learning area at the secondary level, you can see just, again, no statistically significant differences here, but wanted to highlight the 2 lower values. By the way, particularly high school results, we typically see as being much lower than elementary. That's normal. But the 2 lowest values here, the skills I'm learning in school are relevant to my life. My teachers often connect what I'm learning to life outside the classroom. That speaks to relevance and engagement connection. Last year, I'd mentioned that was a particular area of focus in terms of the results. You'll hear me say that again as we get to the results this year in terms of the summary. Student-staff relationships at the secondary level. Again, wanted to highlight sort of the highest value there. In my school, adults believe I could learn. And then the 3 lowest values, my teachers help me set learning goals, discipline's fair, and school rules are applied equally to all students. Again, none of the differences here, again, statistically significant over a year ago, but again, wanted to point to those high-low values. Culture climate on the secondary side, again, 2 highest statements. I feel like I am a part of this school. The school buildings and grounds are kept clean. The lowest, broken school, things at the school get fixed quickly. I'm pleased with the food choices available in the school cafeteria. And students at the school try to work out their disagreements with other students by talking to them. Again, no statistically significant differences. These are the lowest values in just about every secondary program that I work with across the country. Again, some new safety questions and then some older safety questions to compare. I wanted to look at the top of this list in the safety category. I feel welcome in my classrooms at my school remains the highest, but you're going to see what is considered a statistically significant drop there. That paired with the elementary statements that also dropped around that, right, suggest that for whatever reason, this particular year, there were segments of students that felt a little less connected and welcome than they had potentially in prior years. Below that, I feel safe in my school. Again, considered a statistically significant drop, but again, sort of above that 50% threshold. And then on the bottom end, I find it easy to connect with my school counselors if I'm struggling. The adults in my school care about me, and I feel safe expressing unpopular opinions in class. Secondary students reflecting what our elementary students told us in that last statement. Pause there just a second. Are there any questions about the student results before I move to staff? Okay. Moving into the staff results, you can see about 1,000 less responses this year, still a good number, again, projectable to the rest of the population. You can see the categorical averages here. This is exceptionally high. I know I mentioned this a year ago, but when we talk about staff in particular, we don't see these kind of averages when we look at staff engagement across the board. This is a benchmark in terms of what other districts should aspire to in terms of the numbers you're seeing across the board here. And I'll point to some of those highest statements for you, but it speaks to, I think, the excellent job that's being done around recruitment and retention of staff, as was just highlighted by that recognition a minute ago. In terms of clarity and alignment, no statistically significant differences here. We set an 80% benchmark for staff. It's a little bit higher just because of sort of what we see across the country. But again, all very high scores here wouldn't point to anything as being an area of concern. In the supervisor area, the one area I'll point to here at the bottom is the one that's below benchmark. I received recognition from my principal or departmental supervisor for excellent work. These results were rolled out to the leadership team about a month ago, and at that time, we talked specifically about the role of recognition within a school and within a system and the importance of a quality recognition program. And so I'm confident that we'll continue to see strong numbers there. Again, there's nothing wrong with a 71.5% in that area, but it's the lowest value in the category, so I highlighted it. Culture and climate, a couple of things I'd point to here. I'm proud to work for the school district. That is a key indicator of engagement and employee retention. So when you see high values there, and again, we're sitting at 86%, which is exceptionally high, that often is reflective of a high retention rate within the school district and others wanting to work for the schools. Last one, broken things at my school building get fixed quickly. Again, sort of reflective of what we've heard students say to us in the past. In the safety category, a couple of new statements here. Wanted to highlight the two highest. The first one's new. I'm confident in what to do in the case of an emergency in the building. I think that speaks to our training, right, around emergencies and how to address them. The other new one was if I report a safety concern, I'm confident it will be addressed appropriately. Again, high value there, a lot of confidence in the way in which those are engaged. The other ones I would just point to here, again, high values, and you're going to notice I feel comfortable reporting a safety concern no matter how small, ticked up slightly from where it was a year ago. Before I move to the family survey results, any questions on the staff?
I just wonder if you see any higher than 93 for the safety, the emergency? Is that something you see higher than 93?
Yeah, the one thing I would point to here is this isn't just teaching staff. This is all staff that are employed by the district. And so oftentimes the teaching staff number, if you were to hone in, would be higher, and it is in this case. If you hone in on the non-teaching staff number, it tends to be a little bit lower than that, right? And so I would say our operational folks tend to respond just a touch differently to that statement. But yeah, above 90% is very, very strong. Some of those were neutral, and I think the neutral responses were a result of those saying, I just maybe haven't had exposure or training or been connected to something in my job role that would necessitate me knowing what to do in that case. So
I would like that to be higher, but because safety is so important.
Yep, absolutely. Any other questions? Okay. Family survey results, we saw a slight uptick in responses from our families. Just to point to the methodology here a little bit, on the district side, there was a district section in the survey that could be responded to one time, and then there was a school-specific section that could be responded to multiple times, once for each child they have enrolled in a school. And so you're going to see that the number of responses on the school questions will be higher than those on the district questions because they could only respond once to the district questions. Here are the categories across on the family side. Again, very high values here. I point to that communication one as a particular strength because it also stood out a year ago. We do a really good job of communicating with our families. They feel very clear about the information they're getting. Remember on the family survey, we had two what we call key driver statements, 11-point scale statements around both likelihood to recommend the district to somebody who's looking for a school district or new to the community, and then one around overall satisfaction with the educational program in the school. The way, again, that you think about that is respondents on that 11-point scale, 0 to 10, are broken into three categories. 9 and 10 are considered promoters or people talking well about the district. 7 and 8 considered passives, or those who are sort of neutral. They like most things, but there's 1 or 2 things they'd like to see improved. And then 0 through 6s, who are considered detractors, or those who are likely to say something negative about the district if you were to talk to them. Take your percent of 9 and 10s, your promoters, you subtract your percent of detractors, 0, 6, and you get your net promoter score, or your satisfaction score in this case, on a scale from negative 100 to positive 100. If you remember back to last year, anything above 0 is good, 40 is the benchmark. All of your scores are at 40 or above. Again, exceptional. I can count on one hand the number of districts that have a net promoter score at 40 and above. And so very exceptional for you all in terms of family response. We also then, because we have those statements, can run what's called a key driver analysis, where we take all the other statements of the survey, we statistically correlate them with those outcomes, and then we say, all right, of all the survey questions, for those who rated the school district highly, what was most important to them? And for those who rated the school district poorly or lower, what was most important to them? In other words, if we focus on those areas, we should be able to improve our outcomes. Highly rated and important, happy with the quality of instruction, felt welcome, respected, and effective communication. If I rated the school district highly, those were the 3 statements most statistically correlated. On the lower end, if I rated the district lower, I feel connected, I feel happy with how it addresses parent concerns, and the school supports the social and emotional wellness of my child. In other words, if I felt disconnected from the district, I tended to score the district lower. District strengths, again, I know this is a little bit hard to read. I would just point to the fact that you can sort of take the strengths here. Remember, lower number is a higher ranking, because I ranked these from 1 to 10, right? And so if I was a 1, that average would be lower, and so you want a lower number there as a more important strength. If you break this sort of 24, 25 results into 3 buckets, that safe and secure learning environment as being sort of number 1, that next group of 4, and then that bottom group of 5, though they shifted within those groups a little bit from a year ago, the groups remain the same. And so I would say that these results are pretty static compared to where they were a year ago, even though the numbers have shifted. In the learning category, again, no real shifts here. We're looking at about a 70% benchmark, and so there are 2 statements below benchmark. However, I would point to those particular statements as having a high neutral response rate, not a high negative response rate, because there are just some schools and experiences that don't have curricular programs or non-curricular athletic programs that parents are seeing their child participate in. For example, if I had a student in kindergarten, I could respond to the survey, likely to say neutral there because I haven't had that experience yet. On the communication side, we ask in a variety of communication methods which ones are seen as valuable or most important. These data almost exactly mirror where we were a year ago. Most families are saying school messenger emails, district campus newsletters, campus website, the mobile app as being the primary ways that we get information. Also on the communication side, again, very high scores across the board, no statistically significant differences. I would point to the low value here, which is I'm happy with how the district addresses parent concerns. However, we're very close to that 70% benchmark. On the culture and climate side, very high scores. 3 statements, same as a year ago, that were below that 70% benchmark. Recent efforts to improve facilities and campuses around the district for improved learning for my children. I feel connected to other families, parents at the school, and I'm pleased with the food choices available to my child in the school cafeteria. Again, coming up with another stakeholder group. Those other ones, again, I would characterize as high neutral response, not high negative response. Safety, 2 new statements or questions for parents this year. If I report a safety concern, I'm confident it'll be addressed appropriately. Very high. I know what to do if there's an emergency at my child's school. 67%. I would say that that one is probably on the lower end. And so we think about our internal stakeholders knowing what to do in an emergency, our students and staff. Our families were a little less confident in what to do if there was an emergency.
What's the difference between the question safe and secure learning environment and then this last one about the safety?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
So, sorry, if you could just restate for me which.
Oh, sure. If we look at page, for example, or a slide on family results for 24-25, the safe and secure learning environment.
Yep.
That rating, and then this last because they scored pretty high on this last one about safety, right? But what's the difference between those two questions?
Yeah, I think one is relative to things like emergencies and like relatively how safe I feel. Safe and secure learning environment to me suggests a little more than just sort of physical safety, right? It suggests emotional safety. It also suggests things like how well we're providing an effective learning environment for students, not just are they physically safe in the building, right? And so that's how we think about those a little bit different. One's a little more instructionally focused. The rest of them are a little bit more like physical safety focused.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. There were thousands of comments. We have the privilege of getting to read all of those comments from our students all the way down to 3rd grade to our families and staff. Within that, the comments are available to the internal leadership team. They will not be a part of the public dashboard for a variety of reasons. That said, we did do a thematic analysis of those. So these were the questions that were asked that were open-ended. They were not required, and so they were optional to respond to. I wanted to give you some of the themes that came out both from a what we do well side and then what we can improve on side. From a do well standpoint, and again, I think this mirrors some of what we saw last year, all different stakeholder groups repeatedly referred to the high levels of collaboration and individual support that's provided. Families reference that if their child's struggling, both their child is getting support and they're getting support at home as a family member. Staff reported the same. And so a lot of good feedback there in the comments about that supportive environment. The second was welcoming environment for stakeholders. Everybody across the board, for the most part, made some reference to that commented on this about how welcome they feel, right? Their child feels welcome, they feel welcome, staff feel welcome. Lots of opportunities for relationship building, which makes sense given theme number 2. If you're going to feel welcome, it's probably the result of relationship building that's happening. 4, districts are safe, right? We looked at those safety questions. The comments reflected that as well. Yes, they feel safe. I feel safe sending my child to school. And then effective communication, 2nd year in a row, one of the highest commented on areas that was also very positive. On the improved side, we saw a lot of comments from families and staff about competitive salary and benefits and the desire to continue to elevate that in order to attract and retain the highest quality staff. The second, time for collaboration, right? Time's always a factor when we think about the impact of the work that we do. People express the need for more time. Third, increased relevance for students and cultivating innovative opportunities for staff. It's interesting, this year's survey, there were a number of comments from staff members about, I need more time with my colleagues to innovate and do really creative things. So there's a desire to try new and creative things in the classroom, but also this feeling of, I don't have the time to be able to do it. So that came up quite a bit. And then the last one, food and facilities. Again, that's no different than every school district I work with across the country, but came up here again in the comments. So in summary, I would highlight 4 primary areas. I highlighted a couple of these last year. That idea of relationship building, right? You're on a good course there, and so continuing to identify ways in which you can support the well-being and sort of instructional needs of families and students and staff through relationship building. Second, relevance and authenticity, always a challenge. There were a number of student comments about how they could see the connection between what they were learning and the next unit in the classroom, but they didn't see the connection outside of that. So there's a feeling of learning the curriculum for the curriculum's sake, which they were invested in, but not necessarily what does this mean for me in 3 to 5 years, right? And so that conversation, always an opportunity. 3, the operational concerns. Again, I know there are a lot of efforts that are made there. My question is sometimes, how transparent are we being about the changes we're making on the operational side? It feels like one of those areas that we spend a lot of time on, that we can make rapid improvement on, but just isn't broadcast as much as sort of the other things that we do within the operation of the school district. And so I wonder how much of that desire is just, a lack of sort of information about what's been done. And then last, that idea of moving from project to program. I'm a big believer in ongoing experience management. The annual surveys are great, but let's look for ongoing opportunities to gather information from our stakeholders about the experiences they're having so that we can support them throughout that cycle. Lastly, just wanted to highlight for you that we did this year, in the interest of transparency, produce a public-facing dashboard that will be live on the website. And so I know I wanted to give an opportunity to just pull that up via the link here and show it just a little bit. There you go. If you hit that little pin icon to the upper left where it says Pages there, that'll pin the navigation bar to the top. So if you scroll down, you'll see that the initial page of the dashboard, the intention here is for it to be very clean, to provide clear information for families who are navigating this, and then allow them to see the information in a way that's going to be meaningful for them. Now, obviously, the device you're on and sort of the scale of the frame is going to determine how some of these things look, but it is effective on a mobile device as well. What you'll see here is there are 5 pages on the dashboard. You're going to notice this one sort of gives you the primary communication-based information and some of the response rates. And then at the top, if you could just click on that drop down now that says 1 of 5, you're going to notice that we have a page built for all of the 4 surveys that were administered. And if you click on family results, you'll see how the results look here. And so again, we'll have those response counts. And then as you scroll down, you're going to see many of the same charts that you saw in the presentation this evening, again, with some context provided for families as they're looking at and navigating the information. The other thing you're going to notice at the top is a series of filters that you can utilize to drill down to the individual school level or grade level if you wanted to. All the data on the page will shift to reflect whatever combination of filters you hit. The one thing I would point to there is a response count threshold. So if your combination of filters would draw that response down to a number that could be identified, it'll sort of error out and say no data is available because we want to protect the anonymity of our respondents. And again, available, and we'll continue to update this on an annual basis. So as the survey results come in, we'll continue to show those comparatives over time and look for those trends.
Trustee Harrell?
Real quick, I know we didn't get to see all the questions or the responses, but were there any around student, family, and employee mental health and wellness? Other than I feel like there were a couple that alluded to it, but anything a little more clear-cut?
Yeah, so there was no direct question that would, I think, ask that question the way you're thinking about it. The questions were more around well-being, around engagement, connection, feeling welcome, those kinds of things, sort of the psychological safety of being in a building.
Belonging, all that, yeah.
You got it, but not that explicit. And there's a couple of reasons we don't ask it that explicitly. Those sorts of questions, the response rate tends to be a little bit lower because people feel less comfortable sometimes answering those types of questions. And so we try to get at it through other factors that we know drive engagement.
Okay, thanks for that. The other part, were there anything about administrative support?
So there were questions in the staff survey around feedback, around being able to sort of trust their administrator, those sorts of statements. So there were a number of statements in there that specifically got at, and again, we're not always talking building principal there. It's just whoever is the supervisor, right, for the given employee group.
And is that would we be able to see those kind of results?
Yep.
Okay.
So for example, I have the training to do my job effectively. The district administrator superintendent has a video picture, right? Like there's a number of questions in here that sort of get at employer or supervisor support.
It's also important to note that when Nick presented to the campus principals, they had their individual campus results.
Oh, good to know.
So you're seeing the district, obviously 50,000-foot view, but the campuses all received, the campus principals all received their individual results as well. Which they were very engaged and very interested in not only reviewing the data, but then also what are the next steps. And that's really the point of not just the dashboard. As you well know, I felt it pertinent that we asked the community, we asked our staff and our students to provide feedback. Well, what are the results, and then what are the actionables to follow? Because that's equally important.
They can use it on their campus improvement plans.
Absolutely. In the district improvement plan, we're going to benchmark, and we've got some ideas on, how do we articulate work orders being closed out, items being fixed. The school nutrition is just challenging. Having to work in and around the fair nutritional guidelines is just challenging. Thomas, they're committed to it. In fact, as you are aware, our student voice group serves as our test cases for trying out new foods. But like I say, there are some guidelines, FDA guidelines that we're having to work through. So like I say, I think that now that we have 2 years hopefully we're going to be able to, like I say, work on some areas that we can grow and continuously improve in areas that we're really achieving high.
Trustee Freeman?
Yes. Dr. Kraft, considering these results, and then obviously the principals just received these, regarding next steps, when is an opportunity to come back to the board and have the discussion as to what we're doing?
Yeah. Yeah, so.
What will those action items be?
Yeah, so from a district level, like I say, we're gonna put in place some work orders. So like, there are different ways that you can set up QR codes. Hey, this restroom needs service, those kind of things. So we can provide those actionables. Campuses, it will be incorporated into their campus improvement plans. So if you kind of think about 132 different actionable plans, I don't know if you want to see that
I guess,
granular.
yeah, I guess not that specific, but about how that's happening within the school and central office's response to that. And then as we look at, have to go back and look, regarding student safety and different things, it'd be interesting to find out some of those students where we talked about a significant drop from last year. And I know we didn't ask, but what is it that you don't, why is it that you don't feel safe here? I mean, it would be interesting to know some of that.
Well, and I think that's where some of the open-ended question and feedback can really help campuses. And we have, obviously, that open-ended feedback, but it's a lot of information. It's a lot of open-ended responses. But I think, like I say, when it's drilled down to the campus, they're going to be able to go through and see some of specifically what is it that doesn't make you necessarily feel like you know how to respond in an emergency situation or overall safe at your campus.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to go into it too much more, but you mentioned benchmarks, so maybe that's the report to the board, or how, I don't know, I'm just.
Well, it's gonna be hard to, so when we put together the action plan, the dashboard is already published. But when we put together the action plan, until we survey again, very specific to the questions that have been asked, that's gonna be kind of difficult to gauge progress improvement, unless we take it to another dimension and create, like I say, that, as we discussed, an actual quarterly top report dashboard that has measurables like number of work orders opened and those closed, and running those percentages. I mean, there are metrics to be applied to anything. It's just,
maybe
we
let's
wanna
bring
take
it to
that
a
course of
committee or
action.
something and just talk about it.
Yeah, maybe, I was going to suggest maybe at academics, because I'm wondering too what next steps would be if I was a campus leader and I got some concerning data about safety or belonging or whatever, what am I going to do with it? And is central office staff going to know which campuses and where to go coach, guide, suggest, twist their arm, whatever, and then bring it back to us? Because these are aligned with our board superintendent goals too. And
Absolutely.
so,
Well, and I think it just I think it depends. We charge our campus principals, campus instructional leaders, I mean, with a big part of the success of their campus academically, but then also just in totality is a strong culture climate. And so I think it depends on each individual campus's feedback as to what they foresee as the trajectory pathway forward, along with their site-based teams, as to what training do we need to look at focusing on in the future. Now, and I say that it depends because like work orders or things that are broken not being fixed in a more timely, I mean, that's more of a district initiative. But the campus
and a lot
culture
of that was like
part.
parts that we couldn't get, and so there's reasons like out of our
Yeah,
control, right?
maybe,
Some of
but
it.
then if we recognize this, we start trying to order an inventory, which we have as a result really of last year's surveys, building a warehouse of inventory of parts that we know are going to break. So like I say, I think it depends on each individual campus's results as to what that translates into their campus improvement planning process going forward. I know that as an instructional leader, having this type of information at my fingertips is a really pretty good barometer as to, really what is the culture and the climate of the campus, particularly with the staff. Because here's what happens inevitably. There's a term, the squeak wheel gets the grease. And that inevitably is just, in many cases, how we fall into this mode of operations. Well, when you have statistically significant survey data, it's that you can kind of, yes, that's still a reality in some cases, but what is the greater perspective of, how we're doing relational, how we're doing in a lot of different aspects that, again, drive the campus, the health of the campus and culture of, and so it's not just the 10% that may be speaking at staff meetings that happen to be the loudest.
Exactly.
Which you have to be careful of.
I would add just a couple things to that. On the point about how you dig a little bit deeper, I think as the organization matures around this sort of surveying, I think we can customize a couple of survey questions at the campus level in the future if we needed to. So if the individual campuses were working on something improvement specific, you could sort of gauge that way. The other thing I always recommend is, every good survey is going to generate more questions than answers often, right? And so as a result of that, let's ask the people who are responding if we need clarity, right? So you think about things like focus groups or the ability to pull a group of students together and say, hey, in the data, we saw this drop. Tell us about that. What do you think's happening? Tell us a little bit more. And so you can investigate in that way. We can just get it straight from the stakeholders, pull a parent group together, pull a staff group together and ask, right? If you want to know more. And to the point about sort of the action level, when we talk about staff and culture climate, right, the engagement of a building is everyone's responsibility. It's not the leader's responsibility to fix the culture and climate within a building. And so the more you involve the entire staff in understanding the data and developing solutions for how it's going to improve, the better that culture becomes over time, right? And it starts with transparency. So we're there, right? And then the second step of that is actually acting on the data in a way that could have an impact. And again, the more you involve the respondents, the stakeholders in that work, the better the outcome is going to be for you on the back end.
I have one other question.
Yeah, go ahead, Trustee.
So I know this will be posted, you showed us where it's going to be posted, that's it for everybody, right? That's the district. Will the individual campuses also be posted at that same site?
You're going to be able to drill into the individual campus data.
Okay.
Every page has a school name filter at the top, and so
there you go.
You can drill in at the departmental level and at the school level, and then it'll filter the data for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess one quick comment on the discussion, and then one general sort of question. I guess in some ways I see it a little bit different, and I'll tell you why. Just because when I was running operations at Tech, had to do surveys. We did all kinds of surveys. But part of the way I saw it as a manager is I saw something that I didn't know about. I had to be concerned about why didn't I know that. So sometimes it's the process itself. It's okay, separate from having surveys are important, but on the other hand, I may be missing something too, or my communication, my management may miss more than what the survey says itself per se. So I think that's one other thing that we have to be cautious of as we continue down. But the one question I did have though, from a big picture standpoint, tell me if I've got this completely wrong. So when you're going through it in the staff area, you said you didn't use the word model, but you used exemplary or high, right?
Yeah, benchmark district, yeah.
Benchmark district, same thing with the, on the family side, right?
Yep, on the net promoter questions, yes.
Yeah, so then it leads me to question, wait a minute, we didn't say that on the student side. So is there any type of correlation, or why isn't that the case, or why don't we have that part of the story if we're doing so well with staff and family?
Yeah, I don't want to mislead you. Your scores across the board are very good. The secondary data is always challenging, right? Particularly high school students. And I think what we see in the highest performing districts across the country on the student side is that relevance indicator, right? Which is a little bit lower for you all, which is higher in some of those higher districts, right? And so that idea of students seeing relevance, connection, authenticity in the work, that often is a key driver of those outcomes. Also, sort of the welcome cultural fit, right? That idea of, hey, in a building, I feel like I belong here, I'm welcome, right? Like those are also primary drivers. But secondary data is always a little bit challenging. Middle high school students just respond a little bit.
Oh, no, you answered it, but because either if it's secondary data, we're still comparing to others. So
Yeah.
You answered it. That helped out a great deal. Appreciate it. Okay. Any other board comments, questions? Well, good. Well, thanks for, glad we got you some good weather this time.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me. Last time around, it would have felt like home from Wisconsin, but I'll take this 70-degree weather any day. So,
Thanks, Nick.
thank y'all.
We appreciate it.
All right, good. Well, it's good to get that in. That's great. Okay. So next we go into our citizens to be heard. I think we have, for the board to know, is it 3 citizens to be heard?
Yes, sir.
So let me remind our rules for addressing the board. We have our podium that's set in the front, so we believe citizens to be heard is important and meaningful, and we'll definitely listen to what you have to say. We value your opinions, although, again, we're restrained by law from taking any action. Please address your remarks to the board. Confine your remarks to NISD policy or practice. You can limit your remarks to 3 minutes. At the 2-minute point, our board secretary will hold up the yellow card. And then to wrap it up at the 3-minute point, hold up the red card also, correct? And will we have will the screen also display here? Just try to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, I see a thumbs up somewhere, so you'll also be able to see the screen in front for the time. And again, do not make personal attacks on individuals. And we'll have Dr. Kraft call up our citizens.
Yes, sir. First signed up, Patty Cantu.
No, they'll adjust. Don't worry. They'll adjust the mic. No, you don't have to. Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, Dr. Kraft and members of the board. My name's Patty Cantu, and I am a proud member of the Northside Classroom Teacher Association. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your continued support of students and teachers in Northside. On behalf of the officers of Northside CTA, we'd like to thank Dr. Carol Harrell, Mrs. Corinne Saldana, Mrs. Karen Freeman, and Dr. Homer Guevara Jr. for attending our meeting on February 17th. Giving our members the chance to sit with you, to share stories and ask questions with you was priceless. It was great to see that your NISD priorities aligned with many of ours. Mr. Bobby Blunt, thank you for reaching out to us and informing us of your scheduling conflict. Our Northside CTA was honored to be invited to not just meet with state leaders, but to also testify at a Senate hearing on behalf of Texas teachers. This experience was empowering, and we are proud to share that fact with you. It is my belief that Northside teacher organizations should come together, linked by our commonalities and support of all Northside teachers. Thank you for your continued support for teachers, staff, and our everyone on campus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next signed up, Christina Inklin.
Good evening. I'm a parent, grandmother, and I've come to you this evening to address the proposed changes to the dual language program, NISD. This was come to my attention at a meeting at Wonky Elementary last week. As you well know, there's approximately 720 children in dual language program, 4 of them which are mine. And we were told that it will be changing for our children as they move into middle school, and it will be a program where they will have to test out and score high enough to continue in what's called advanced Spanish. When we signed up for the program, we made a commitment, and the commitment was that we would go with the program. We would do what it took to teach our children, whether you were monolanguage English or Spanish, and do what it takes. And we would continue on through middle school, only to have this be changed. I want my kids to speak 2 languages. We live in Texas, okay? If you've ever been in dual language class, it is so heartwarming, and you made mention to it. And your survey person talked about relevance. If you go into a dual language class and you see these kids going back and forth, my twins are in 1st grade. They're talking back and forth to their friends in Spanish. Their Spanish friends are speaking in English. One's crying, no llores, ¿qué quieres, qué necesita? It is so heartwarming. That's what I want them to learn. Your new proposed program is that these children will have to test out in 5th grade to go on to middle school advanced Spanish. That's not important and that's not relevant. We need to keep them in some sort of a dual language program with the confines that I realize you guys have. The test for dual language is this. My granddaughter had a birthday party. A child came who was totally Spanish speaking, very shy, didn't say a word. My granddaughter from Knowlton takes her little hand. Ben, took her little hand. I'll show you how to bowl. It changed. This little girl lit up. All the little kids got together and went off to play. My child's English dominant, or used to be. That's what we need to see, not a test to continue on with our dual language program. Can we please revisit this a little bit and see how we can maybe make this work without this test? Because testing doesn't necessarily determine a child's ability to be a lifelong Spanish speaker. It certainly didn't for me. Please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. England, we'll follow up with you. We recognize, understand. Yeah. It was discussed this morning in an admin meeting, so we'll follow up again. Jordan Wagner, excuse me.
Told me so much already. Okay. Good evening, President Blount and Board Trustees and Superintendent Dr. Kraft. I'm Jordan Wagner, representing Northside Council PTAs. I'm also a parent of a child at Zachary Magnet and Hoffman Elementary. I'm normally in the audience taking notes, but I thought it was important that I come up here and do a Citizens to Speak tonight. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. I know it's not School Board Appreciation Month anymore, but I just wanted to tell you guys how much we appreciate you guys coming and showing your support for our event yesterday. For those in the audience, you've already heard, our PTA Council went to the Texas Capitol yesterday for Texas PTA Rally Day. Trustee Freeman, Trustee Saldonia, Trustee Blount, and Dr. Kraft came and participated in our appointments with our legislators to talk about public school priorities. And the biggest priority was, of course, public school funding. Trustee Saldana reported that in the appointment, wait, where is she? There she is. That in the appointment with Representative LaHood, he admitted he didn't really understand how school funding worked, and that he would actually read Senate Bill 2 before voting for it, so that's nice of him to say. Having our school board members there in those meetings was invaluable source for our combined efforts. To prioritize high quality public education to our north side and really all students across the state. Partnerships is what keeps us an organization alive. We all need community partners. I'm sure you all agree with it. It certainly helps when you can call on your partners to help to achieve your priorities. Our council, which is the biggest PTA council in the state of Texas with over 24,000 members, has been active in the Northside for 40 years this year. But when Dr. Woods highly encouraged every school in the district to have a PTA in every Northside school, it solidified our partnership even more. It's become embedded in our culture in Northside. So speaking of partnerships, Mr. and Mrs. PTA, aka Steve Daniels and Jessica Palomares, worked with Dr. Kraft to get the 22 high school ambassadors to come and participate in the student caucus and rally at the steps of the Capitol. The Harlan cheerleaders helped lead the crowd at the Capitol steps. We had over 40 parents and teachers and admin take time out of their days to advocate for our students so that they can have a safe and equitable school experience. I had community sponsors from RBFCU, the Emergency Center, Apex, to feed and clothe our Rally Day participants. These partnerships just helped me worry less about those details and more on what I do best on council, which is to help children reach their potential by empowering communities and families to advocate for children. So thank you again for your support, your continued partnership and support.
Good. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Well, we can't discuss, but I do want to get clarification because we brought it up a couple of times about the rally yesterday. But what we haven't said, it wasn't just Northside was there. It was about how many? About 5,000 or 6,000? I don't know the number that was actually there. Over 3,000 that were actually there. So it was really impressive to see that many people there. Okay. All right, so that completes our citizens to be heard portion. Next, we'll go into the consent agenda. Is there a motion to come before the consent agenda? Trustee Freeman?
Yes, Mr. Blunt, I would move approval of consent agenda items.
Second.
Okay, motion second, any discussion? Because there are a number of items that y'all notice on the consent agenda this time, so if not, we are ready to.
Bobby?
Yeah, Trustee Hall?
Just real quick, Dr. Jordan, on the campus targeted improvement plans with Cody, Glass, Martin, and Jay. And I know if those were based on last year's data, but this year's plan. So could we, at an upcoming academics, just see how they're doing based on all the things that they had to, the requirements that were needed, if you don't mind?
You bet.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, any other comments, questions? All right, now I have to move to second that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed, state nay. Okay, motion carries. Good. All right, thank you all. So now we go into our business and finance area. Dr. Kraft?
Yes, sir. The first item we'd like to bring to your attention, we've had another update with the SHARS program, which actually came up in one of our conversations with our ambassadors yesterday with a legislative staffer. So Tiffany's going to present budget amendment number 2 for this fiscal year.
Hi, yes, good evening.
Oh, Tiff, I'm sorry, Tiff. I think we're having a request for about a 5-minute break, a recess, because people are slowly, if that's okay? Yeah, so you're about to lose another one, so let's if it's okay, let's delay for 5, because we're going to be fully attentive. So we'll just give it about 5 minutes.
Back in 5.
Back in 5. Sorry for that interruption, but we are ready to continue with our budget amendment number 2, correct?
Yes, sir, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Today we have a budget amendment proposal for the General Fund and Child Nutrition Fund. There is no proposal to amend the Debt Service Fund. The budget amendment for the General Fund includes, like Dr. Kraft mentioned, a reduction in federal revenue for the SHARS reimbursement that we are not receiving the expected amount that we had planned for and included in the original adopted budget. In addition to that, we are decreasing the general fund expenditures by just over $400,000. So the net impact on operations is a increase to the budget deficit by $2.5 million. And that is the general fund. And before I move on to Child Nutrition Fund, are there any questions about the general fund? Okay. Very good. And then the Child Nutrition Fund revenues are being amended to recognize a net decrease of $1 million as a result of less reimbursable meals served during adverse weather conditions and just less reimbursable meals in general. And then the Child Nutrition Fund expenditures are amended to recognize a net increase of expenditures of just over $3 million to purchase essential equipment and supplies and other improvements in our cafeterias as part of a fund balance spend down plan required by the Texas Department of Agriculture. So they're just putting the fund balance to good use and making some improvements in our cafeterias. And that is the budget amendment number 2.
All right, and this one is scheduled for, check.
For approval?
correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Is there any comments or questions from the board? Oh, no, it does say for discussion.
It says discussion on mine.
Yeah.
We can, sorry. It is. We can bring it back. Yeah, we can bring it back for a consent agenda item.
Okay.
Is it on? Is it updated, Monica?
Okay, and it went out that way to the, okay. All right, so, yeah, it's just updating our part. So is there a motion to come before the board? Trustee Freeman.
And I want to also welcome our new CFO who's here today, Megan Bradley. Megan, hi, good to see you here. And you'll be with us beginning March. Monday, okay. Yeah, March the.
It's March,
Whatever it
Monday.
is, it is March, okay. Well, welcome, glad you could be here tonight. Mr. Blunt, I would move approval.
Motion,
Budget.
motion second, any further discussion? All right, moved and second that we approve the budget amendment 2 as presented. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, state nay. Good, motion carries. Okay. All right, so now, Dr. Kraft, we're ready for our next discussion.
Yeah, so how to begin this conversation? Ms. Freeman's point, we did meet with the Finance Committee this past Thursday, and we really just started rolling out what is inevitable and really in front of us. And as promised, we wanted to work right alongside the 89th legislative session. There is going to be a both Senate bill and House bill, school finance bill. For the House bill, it's House Bill 2. And I think that it's very safe to say that what is included with House Bill 2 at this point, which will probably be the funding mechanism as it pertains to the basic allotment and really school safety allotments, potentially even teacher pay raises, which are desperately needed. But it's definitely safe to say that closing now a $96 million deficit budget, we're not going to see the additional funding in order to do so. So we've got to very strategically, very intentionally go about a budget reduction strategy for fiscal year 26 and thereafter. That being said, a few things, and again, these are just really reminders. We're going to continue to watch the legislative process, and particularly the school finance legislation, very closely. But our goal really needs to be to try to reduce $70 million out of the operating budget rolling forward. And I'll explain why here momentarily. Objective number one is to ensure that all employees have jobs. And I'm just going to say it as plainly and as simply as I possibly can. I do not anticipate or foresee a reduction in force, which would have to be obviously ratified and implemented as a result of board action per policy. A couple of the strategies that have already been employed was we have put in place a hiring freeze. Now, I say that with the exception of critical shortage areas. In fact, we just discussed it again today in Cabinet. If we have the ability to hire a vacancy with a science, with a mathematic, with an English teaching position, special ed, particularly self-contained special ed position, we're hiring those positions simply as a result of the vacancies and, like I say, the critical need. The other positions that are support, we're holding, we're assessing, and we're potentially looking at reorganizing / reprogramming going forward. Departments have been charged with looking at a 10% reduction across departments. That's not to say that there's going to be an automatic 10%, but we will need to assess and just look what is the impact, particularly on the classroom in potentially making those cuts. The other item that we're spending quite a bit of time on last week, but again, senior staff spent yesterday looking at the previous 6 years' growth and improvement packages. We believe, I believe, that there is significant savings, efficiencies that can be garnered as a result of looking at particularly ESSER funds that were used to fund various initiatives. Looking back, okay, the ESSER funds have since expired, and so again, what are the implications now that we don't have the luxury of those funds in scaling those services back and or strategically abandoning, which there is strategy. There are some uncertainties, and I'll just go through a few. One, what does the final Senate bill or House bill pertain, or what does it look like, and how does it impact ultimately additional funding flowing to schools next year? It may be, again, a delayed decision depending on conference committees, amendments that are going to be attached. So that's why we really need to start taking a look at really a $70 million reduction now, as we are. The other piece that is really difficult to try to gauge, which we've been asked, is what is the impact if an education savings account voucher program is implemented as early as next year? What does that look like? And that's really difficult. We're trying to get a grasp on, well, how many current seats are open, vacant in private schools? But that's a difficult number to try to figure out. Well, what is that impact? I mean, it's almost like a charter school opening. Until we see that impact, it's just really difficult to project. That being said, I think it's safe to say that there probably would be an impact. I don't know that it would be to the extent of many other communities that have a lot of private school opportunities, but there would probably be an impact. Just as a reminder, we do have some remaining continuity of instruction designated fund balance, but we need to be careful with that funding in the sense of the unknowns. Like I say, the ESA, what does our enrollment do as a result of a potential ESA? And so, like I say, we're taking those approaches right now that's going to really start to pick up steam in the next several finance committee meetings, but then also through the budgeting process that will be coming to you really each meeting going forward. One of the areas, major areas, along with particularly looking at hiring freezes, is the staffing ratios. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring your attention to the, first and foremost, the elementary staffing ratios that we've had resource planning develop. And I don't know if we can pull up that first elementary scenario. Yep, okay. If we can just go down to that first chart, and you can start to see what the implication would be if we increase the student-to-teacher ratios with the different scenarios. The middle row, obviously, are the FTEs that would be saved, and then, of course, the cost savings, which are approximate numbers in association. I will say that we may have to take a look at hybrid, particularly with primary years. As we just talked about House Bill 3 and third grade mathematics and literacy goals. This is not a refined decision nor a recommendation at this point, but there are considerable savings when you look at, like I say, the staffing ratios. And I'll pause there if there are any questions. And like I say, there may be a hybrid formula that we bring forward. I asked Debbie McNary simply to just, let's start looking at what are potential scenarios and then cost savings associated.
Yeah, Trustee Freeman?
Yes, Dr. Kraft, please explain what you mean by a hybrid formula.
Yeah, so it may be, rather than going, say, pre-K 25, K through 4th 25, and 5th grade 26, let's look at pre-K 22, kindergarten through 4th 23, because the likelihood that there's going to be a student absent, and then, 5th grade 26, 27, 28. So it could be even 23 and a half, 24. I mean, this really becomes, more of a comfort level than anything else. I can attest to this, especially when we look at secondary staffing. These are pretty nice staffing formulas that we have currently. And again, when we start looking at just an average attendance rate which we're sitting a little bit below 94%. Even though I recognize that it just kind of depends on the campus, the classroom, illness season. I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into it. But to have 100% attendance throughout the entire school year, every day, that's not. And this is kind of the debate, obviously, of do we fund, from a legislative standpoint, do we fund based upon attendance rates, which is our current funding formulas, or actual enrollment, which is obviously how we're budgeting. So, like I say, it could morph into some form of 23.5, 24.5. To me, what we're charged with is, what can we get to, even though I'm presenting this first, what can we get to as far as the savings, and then layer this in kind of at the last resort to close that gap. Because I just don't know, without changing some staffing formulas, that we can get to $70 million with ancillary support outside of the classroom, if that makes sense.
I have a question, sir. I've seen other districts do the class size waivers, right? So those are still, we would have to do still.
So, exactly,
that
yeah.
relate?
So kindergarten through fourth, we would have to submit class size waivers, which we currently do. I mean, this is efficiencies. We do have some, not a lot, we do have some classrooms that exceed that 22 to 1. Yeah. And I say we submit waivers under the DOI now. Do we actually have to submit the waiver to the state still, Ray?
Still do, but it's done electronically. It's not anything like we used to. And we used to report to the board as well monthly.
So yeah, we get to go through those, but like my question would be, the ratio goes up, there may not be some waivers that are needed. I don't know, I'm just presuming. I don't know at what point that we have to request the waivers, right? At what size?
So once it hits 23, kindergarten through fourth, once it hits the 23rd student enrolled in on that roster, not necessarily in attendance, but on that roster, it dictates a waiver being filed.
So if we change these ratios and increase them, we would have to file waivers for everything.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
that's gone up.
keep in mind, these are planning numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
So these are not actual, and that's what gets really interesting. If you look at by campus, we have numerous classrooms just as a result of how many sections, and then of course the efficiency or the size of the campus. We even though we're staffing at 23 to 1, there's many cases where there's 16, there's 17, there's 18 on the roster across the district. And where we start to lose efficiency is our smaller campuses, because when you say if we have let's just say 46 students, 46 first graders. I'm using this as just an example. That's not the case. Well, a couple cases it may be, but 46. Do you have 2 sections or do you have 3 sections? Because if you have 2, obviously you can have 23, but if you add a section, that obviously loses that efficiency model very, very quickly. And that kind of happens, obviously, across the board. The reason that this is also important is, as we get ready to approach the height of the hiring season, we are going to have the staffing formula solidified so that we can run planning estimates for campuses based on their projection, based on their projected enrollment, to start hiring, especially the vacancies that they know they're going to have.
Yeah, Trustee Freeman?
So I don't know where we are in this whole presentation right now, but the last day of the legislative session isn't until June the 2nd. And that's assuming we don't go any further with additional sessions. We've not really decided upon a timeline here.
Yeah.
We know that we have to start staffing really soon. We start hiring in April. what is your idea of a specific timeline, and when are these options going to be presented to the board or
Yeah,
recommendations?
so at the end of April, the April regular meeting at the latest, but here's what we need to be careful of. And I'm going to go back to 2011 because it's similar. I mean, I don't want to paint this in any other light. This is very similar to 2011. In 2011, with the $4.5 billion cut as a result of really the state of economy, that's not the same situation economically that we're in. But I just don't foresee legislation forthcoming that is going to close a $96 million deficit being potentially rolled forward. The reason that I say we just need to be cautious is because in 2011, I can say this with pretty good certainty that a lot of school districts cut too much. And so then as a result, when economic times started to improve and funding increased, we had some pretty large vacancies to work to fill that at that time, it really was a reduction in force, and many educators went on to other professions. So I say that knowing that, you know, we hire now 650, 700 new teachers to the district each year. So we need to be cautious and careful of obviously not cutting too deep. So I know I'm right there on the edge of the seat as well, trying to navigate and drive. But I think that we need to provide a little bit of runway for this legislative session to start to try to play out before we really start reacting and knee-jerking too aggressively.
There's a couple of us that were here in 2011, and the conversations that we had were very, very difficult. At this, like 2011, our goal was that that every staff, every person that we had on staff right now still had a job.
Absolutely.
And we kept that. Yep. But there were some challenges, and they were felt across the district. But we were trying in that attempt to make those budgetary cuts. We tried not to make a difference regarding the programming or the student in the classroom and the opportunities that they received. So we were very conscious about that in trying.
And every conversation we've had, not a single program nor service that we provide currently has been brought up for discussion in regards to being eliminated, being cut back, with the exception of summer school, which summer school was really a lot of enrichment that was really funded primarily with ESSER dollars. We are going to have to make some adjustments to this year's summer school and probably going forward, providing the required summer school opportunities, but probably not as much enrichment.
Trustee Hall?
And I'm glad you said that, Dr. Kraft, because there's just been some rumors going around. So when did principals hear about this? Just so that the rumors could be squashed, or
in regards to
something in
budget reductions?
Yeah.
Probably last
and
May.
Possibly, and possibly related staff reductions or program reductions.
Yeah, once the primary elections were finished last May, we started the conversation that there was going to be budget reductions.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions? You want to hit middle school next, or?
Let's look at secondary real quick. It's a very similar scenario, and again, these are not final recommendations, but you can see, and again, we're currently right now at the middle school level at 23, but average 24 to 1, and again, that's a very lucrative staffing formula, as well as the high school. And I know that I'm probably going to get tomatoes thrown at me real soon, but I can say this with certainty. These are very nice staffing formulas at the secondary level. And so, again, there's some challenges, particularly when we start talking about building the master schedule, offering those singleton classes. So if you kind of think about your AP biology, I mean, you're at a senior level class. It's a dual credit AP stat class. There's probably not going to be 7 sections, so it gets a little bit more challenging. But there are some savings to be garnered, like I say, at the high school and middle school if we elect to modify, change those staffing ratios as well. So, so that's going to be forthcoming. And again, the next finance committee will be bringing in kind of the first blush of what we've been able to work towards, and then, like I say, some tough decisions and tough conversations are going to come thereafter. But absolutely the goal, we want to protect programming, we want to protect the instructional core in particular. The cuts need to be ancillary to the classroom and classroom direct support. And we need to make sure that everyone maintains a job. I mean, that's the overall objective. I mean, you're going to start seeing, we're not alone in this venture, I can assure you, you're going to start seeing districts across the state starting to take some pretty desperate action in shoring up deficit budgets.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Because this will go to Finance Committee next, and not all of us can be there at that Finance Committee, and these are really critical, not just conversations, but information. Is there a way to have, and so we could discuss it at another time, but I would like, if I can't make that meeting, to have something, if not that day, but pretty close to it, instead of waiting for the board meeting or waiting to.
Yeah, absolutely. We can provide the minutes immediately, but furthermore.
Really detailed minutes, I think. if you
Yeah,
don't mind.
I think though that ultimately what I foresee happening is, even with the finance committee, similar to this conversation, bringing it back to the full board.
Right,
Because
but
these
that
are
would
pretty big decisions.
prepare a good discussion at the board meeting then, and then we could meet one-on-one with you or the finance chair.
I haven't looked at our board calendar, but we, in the past, have built in budget sessions. So we have called meetings in the middle of the month. And my thought is that we attempt to do that.
I'd be fine if that's the way we'd like to proceed.
Yeah. Yeah, that would
If
be
they
good.
could be in the evening, that would be great for the ones.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they're the called meetings, so it'd be like it'd be the second Tuesday of each month. That's the fourth, yeah, this fourth, second. Yeah. Does any of this also impact like well, we saw it if we do a call meeting. I was thinking of policy committee, but this is really administrative policy. That's not the ratio and those type of things.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
this becomes a staffing guideline.
Right. That's fine.
But it is our core business. So if we start to change, modify, looking at, like I say, increasing the student-teacher class ratios, I mean, this is definitely a board-level conversation.
yeah.
I'll be providing a recommendation, but I know that, like I say, there's going to be definite feedback. And believe me, I can't promise that any of the recommendations are going to be popular, because it's going to be change. But again, being charged with proposing a fiscal year '26 budget and thereafter, the writing on the wall is not indicative that we're going to receive $96 million in additional state funding in the form of a basic allotment that's not tethered to some other program like a school safety allotment, mandatory teacher pay raise, which House Bill 2, just kind of give you an idea, any increase to the basic allotment, it went from a 30% to a 40% threshold and being applied directly to compensation for teachers, counselors, nurses, librarians, which I'm great with, but that doesn't solve our deficit challenge.
Yeah, Trustee Freeman?
Roughly, so what I've seen now, it's $220 increase in the basic allotment on the House side. What does that equate to? I know, okay, so with that, 40% needs to go to teacher salary increase. So what does that leave for everything else?
And this
I mean,
is
I know that's tough.
just a
but
rough estimate, because there's also
back of-
an increase to the school safety allotment, and there's some other things that are layered in that we'll be receiving runs here very soon. Just a rough estimate, 20 million. Rough estimate.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good discussion. Emphasize the importance that we do have the call meetings. The other element too, some of our school choice discussion, transportation type things may also play into that too, when we look at other factors, so, okay. Good, okay. Any other comments or questions? All right, so we'll set up in advance, let everybody know where those call meetings will be, because that is important that we have that opportunity for everybody to be there for much more in-depth conversation. Okay, good. All right, so we'll go ahead and that closes out that session. And next we're in our superintendent area. And I'll start this one if that's okay, Dr.
Yes, sir.
Kraft. This is, I know some of y'all have been waiting for announcing our candidacy. The way that we do this part is we'll go in order the districts themselves. And for those candidates that do want to announce, you'll have 3-minute time period, and it's very similar to how we do our citizens to be heard and anybody that signs up. So you'll come up to the podium, and then you'll have our board secretary hold up the 2-minute and 1-minute portion accordingly. To figure out, let me just make sure. I just want to check to see who there's here this evening. I'm just going to go through the names for District 2. Is Homer? Does Homer want to make comments? Sonja? Okay. Mary? Okay. And Richard? Okay. And then from District 5, Corinne?
Yes.
Okay. Laura? She's not here, okay. From District 6, Carol? Here. No, you want to make comments? Okay, all right. We know what you meant. Present. Nicolette? Here. All right, same thing? Got you. Karen? No.
Yes.
Something about District 6. Karen, yes. And Larissa? Yes. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll call out by district, and y'all got the routine in terms of the 3 minutes, et cetera. Okay? Any comments or questions on the process or from anybody on this part? Like I said, this part's a little different than how we typically do these type of items. Okay. So Sonia, we'll have you go first, okay?
Hello, good evening, Dr. Kraft and the Board of Trustees and community. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today or tonight. My name is Dr. Sonia Hasso. I'm running for NISD School Board, District 2. And I'm doing this because I believe that every student in NISD really deserves the opportunity to be successful, regardless of their circumstances, regardless of their background. As a first-generation college graduate and also an educational leader for the past 2 decades, I myself have experience of seeing the transformational power that education can have for students. And I've really dedicated my career, my life, to supporting student achievement, to advocating for educators, and also fostering strong community partnerships. These are the values that I would bring to the NISD School Board. I have the privilege right now of working with about 22 different independent school districts. I collaborate with superintendents, with principals, with counselors, and with instructors to really enhance their student success models. Additionally, as a university professor, I'm committed to preparing the next generation of educators and leaders. And beyond the classroom, my community involvement includes that I just recently finished serving as the past board president for San Antonio Council on Alcohol and Drug Awareness, and I'm currently a member of the City of San Antonio Affirmative Action Committee. For the past 17 years, I've been proud to call NISD District 2 home, and I'm deeply committed to the future of our students and our schools. My platform focuses on these 5 key areas, which is first is student achievement, really expanding academic opportunities, addressing the diverse learning needs, and ensuring all students are successful. Second is teacher and staff support. So prioritizing the living wage for all educators and staff and fostering growth and retention of instructors. Third is school safety. So enhancing security, mental resources, and building a positive school culture. Fourth is fiscal responsibility, ensuring transparency on budget and resource allocations for maximizing the student efforts and impact. Fifth is community engagement, so strengthening partnerships with parents, with businesses, and with community members to ensure that they're guiding district decisions. This election is about our children and our educators and our community. It really is important that every student at NISD has the opportunity to be successful. With my experience, my leadership, and my passion for education, I'm ready to be an advocate for students, a supporter for our educators, and a strength for our schools. Together, we can build a future for NISD, and I respectfully ask for your support, and anyone looking for me or getting in contact with me can contact my website at drhasso4nisd.com. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we'll have Mary. Or May. Yeah,
Good evening, everyone. Back again this year. So, but to Dr. Kraft and also to President Blunt and the board of NISD. My name is Mary May Ollison, retired for 22 years, although they brought me back for a minute as a school teacher and special ed, assistant principal, and assistant superintendent. I am running for District 2. I am proud to have 11 teachers trained and served under me as instructional coaches, assistant principals, and principals. I was asked to return with SAISD to assist in closing the schools and assist in the areas of needs for advising with school district. My expertise has been with the organization of the Texas Education Policy Institute. And that is the area that we work with. Out of 8 out of 10 years, we're working with the legislature, and we've also training educators across the state to learn what educators want to learn how to understand and how to be part of the bills become passed for our students. The 89th legislature is working for the positive for schools. The state Board of Education is working hard for the state to make sure that they are also working. Oh my goodness. Can't even get it out. To resolve to have excellent curriculums for the students that what might not be sometime is not always good. But we come back and we work to make sure that all of the students get what is all good for them. You want to know what a school board needs and be familiar with and all ins and out of all needs. That is important that you need to know when you're working on the school board. You need to know in and out and what do you think will be better in some areas that is needed. Every year, the Texas Association of School Administrators and Texas Association of Latin Administrators, along with TPI, which is Texas Educational Policy Institute, which is the organization of one of them that I work with and do. And these are the ones that help us with the panels, with the senators, representatives, school boards, commissioners, TEA, and TWC that share on recent legislature and how we can make them be part of schools better to all people, and also all of the district. It is first to know, what do the
Thank you,
schools?
May. We'll have to stop you there. Thank you, May. That's your
All righty.
3 minutes.
All right. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Richard?
All right, so good evening, everyone. This is a little different. Normally, I'm doing something different in front of y'all, so thank you for the opportunity to speak. So my name's Richard Delgado Jr., and I'm honored to announce my candidacy with the support of my family for Northside District 2. So as a longtime volunteer in Northside, I've had the privilege of seeing firsthand how education can shape not only our future individual students, but also the future of our entire community. Education is the foundation for which our future leaders are built, and it's my passion to ensure that every child in this district has the opportunity to thrive both academically and personally. On a personal level, my commitment to this district runs deep. I'm a proud father of the 3 kids who is way past their bedtime, who has had perfect attendance since pre-K, all of whom are enrolled in Northside ISD. Their experiences in the classroom shape their futures. As a parent, I understand the hopes, the dreams, and the concerns of other families in our community, and I want to ensure that every child, including my own, receives the best possible education and a safe, supportive, but inclusive environment. I want to be a voice for all families to ensure that their children are just as inspired to reach their full potential. In addition to my role as a father and a volunteer, as you know, I've served on various committees here in the district, from serving as a PTA president, yes, guys do it too, or serving on the Northside Educational Foundation. I've chaired the Northside School Boundary Advisory Committee for several years. These experiences have not only given me the unique insights of the needs of our students and educators, but it further fuels my desire to advocate for positive change. So beyond my 15 years of education, being an adjunct professor, I've had the commitment to serving the broader San Antonio community, particularly through the work of Military and Veteran Affairs. So I chair the City Commission on Veteran Affairs as the mayor's appointee. I am co-chair for the VA's Community Engagement Board on behalf of the Secretary of VA. I've worked to bring critical resources to our city as Military USA to advocate for families on their behalf. These experiences have taught me the importance of collaboration, problem solving, community leadership, skills that I will bring to the board if so voted on. Together, I believe we could address some of the challenges that we have been talking about tonight, from teacher shortages to learning gaps due to COVID, to school safety, and to support our incredible educators and support staff. So my commitment to Northside is not just professional, it's personal. And I want to ensure all schools are a place where all students can achieve and be successful. So I'm looking forward to working with you all, our parents, our educators, and our community. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay. And Homer? No, you can make yours from there. Yeah, that's fine.
Excuse me. Try to get this done here. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Homer Guevara Jr., and I represent District 2 on the Board of Trustees of the Northside Independent School District. I was appointed to the board in April of 2024. The community has placed faith in me this past year, and I humbly ask for your support to continue on the Board of Trustees for this incredible district. As an NISD trustee, I will continue to lead the Northside Independent School District to efficient, effective, and student-focused school governance by doing the following: by providing our employees with wages that support basic living expenses and benefits that reflect current day economic pressures and professional credentials, build strong family and community engagement to create optimal opportunities for each child, support modifications, adjustment strategies, and services that may be provided to meet the needs of various exceptional students, prevent the diversion of public funds through vouchers, tax credits, and education savings accounts, but most of all, keeping the focus on students and improving educational outcomes and strengthening public education. I am deeply embedded to the community. I'm deeply embedded into education. I was born and raised in San Antonio and graduated from South San High School. I am in my 24th year here at Northwest Vista College and in my 31st year overall in education. I hold the rank of professor and teach government and economics at Northwest Vista College, and a further connection to the community. As many as 90% of my students at Northwest Vista College enrolled in my classes are Northside graduates. Prior to teaching at NVC, I was a teacher and coach in the public school sector, both at Memorial High School and South San Antonio West Campus High School. Prior to being appointed to the board, I advocated for education with appointments to serve on the Undergraduate Education Advisory Committee for the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, and as co-chair of the Education and Workforce Development Council for the Greater San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, where I help lead discussions with members of the Texas Legislature and with members of U.S. Congress on all topics of education and workforce. In other service to the community, I was appointed by the City Council to serve on the CPS Energy Board, which I bring that experience in audit and financial services, operations, oversight, health and benefits, bonds, and communication with ratings agencies. I'm married to Leticia Guevara, a retired public school teacher who taught for 35 years, including the last 21 years in Northside. My kids went through school. They're all schools at every level, eventually graduating from Warren High School. My wife and I have lived in the Northside community for 34 years. My reason for serving as a trustee is about servant leadership. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Homer. Okay. Well, that completes our the candidates for single member District 2. Everybody was present this evening and had the opportunity to announce their candidacy. We will now go over to single member district district number 5. This evening we have Corinne.
Those who have been raising money to support candidates against each of us have made serious allegations that have no basis in the truth. In the past 4 years, I've had the privilege of working with Karen Freeman, Carol Harrell, and Homer Guevara, and can say without reservation that their values and ideals reflect the best of the Northside community. They are the reason that the Northside Board was selected as the outstanding school board in Texas just 2 years ago. They represent unparalleled quality, experience, and dedication. These trustees and myself have refused to push political agendas, risk our financial stability, adopt policies harmful to students or parents, or align with political power brokers outside the Northside ISD. On a personal note, in my first term, I represented Northside at state-level conferences. I've completed the Texas Association of School Boards year-long course of study and have been certified as a master trustee. I've attended every board meeting held in those 4 years, as well as all but a couple of the various committee meetings held every month. More importantly, I've been present at more than 850 district activities, which include visits to our campuses and facilities. I've also had the opportunity to assist in the initiation of several programs that are impacting thousands of our students. The vast majority of the more than 2,000 hours that I've spent as a volunteer in the district have been during the normal workday. This has only been possible because I'm retired and can invest in those aspects of life for which I have a true passion. Frankly, I don't believe that the district is well served when trustees have time constraints that keep them away from important meetings and district activities. The bottom line is this: I believe that most of the people who have known me as a classroom teacher, department chair, assistant principal, academic dean, and school board trustee will echo my assertion that I bring a known value to this position of trust and awesome responsibility. The San Antonio Express-News has stated that this election is a pivotal election and could be a shift to a union-backed majority on the board. I don't see that shift to be in the best interest of our students and their families. If you are a voter in District 5 and agree that I have brought value to our district, I would appreciate your support in this reelection campaign. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Corinne. So that completes for single-member District 5. We have one of the two that announced this evening. So now we'll go to single-member District 6. And Nicolette, you want to go first up here at the podium? Oh, you're good. Don't adjust the
Don't
volume.
touch- okay,
Yeah, no,
okay.
you're fine either way.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Dr. Kraft, all of our board trustees. It's an honor to be in front of you this evening. And as somebody who is running for a school board position, I really do appreciate, again, just the fact that you've invited all of the candidates up here because that's democracy in action, right? We understand that all of us that are running to serve are doing a duty for the community that we want to serve. And I do want to commend Dr. Harl for all of her years as a school trustee. I called her before I decided to run to share and also learn from her what she's done so far and she's most proud of. So again, thank you, Dr. Harl, for even answering my phone call on a Friday afternoon. Again, my name's Nicolette Ardiente. I am running for school board district for District 6. And I'm not only running just for, the community we serve at hand. I'm running for this collective embodiment of what Northside is to our community. Y'all have said it multiple times tonight, and seeing the joy in everyone's face when they come into this building is a testament of that. I'm running because I believe that, again, democracy in action allows for community members to come up and be like, I want to run and I want to serve in this capacity. I wish, to be honest, I could flip so I could talk to all of y'all, so that way y'all can also see me. But the idea here is that we're all committed to Northside. We're all committed to public education. And being a strong advocate means that we're both showing up in the school board meetings, but also showing up in the communities, showing up for our community members who may not have children in the district, but also recognize that our neighbors and our precincts and everybody who makes our lives more successful are all because we're a part of this collective. So again, I'm running for school board because I believe in San Antonio. I forgot to mention, I'm not originally from here. So sometimes my Jersey accent will come out when I say coffee or when I say office. But I moved here in 2012 and I've never looked back since, ever since my parents keep asking me to go move back home to New Jersey. But with that being said, I have the passion, I have the determination, I want to continue serving in this capacity, using my own lived experiences as being a community advocate, for being a community leader, and showing up in spaces for folks of our community to know that someone is looking out for them. We know that today, the work that's being done today in this room and from here on out, especially with the legislature underway, that the success of the future of Texas starts with us in this room, starts with the people behind me, the community members that believe in all of us, but also depends on our support today. So again, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I look forward to talking with y'all very soon.
Thank you. Okay. And next for District 6, Carol.
Thank you. And yeah, Nicolette, thank you so much for reaching out. That made that 3-hour drive back home wonderful. So anytime, you've got my number. And we did talk about kind of a mentor relationship, and Carla will tell you about what a mentor should and shouldn't do. So anyway, but thank you for being here tonight, and I love Democracy in Action as well, so thanks for being part of this great group that's here. I'm very excited and honored to announce my candidacy for the Northside Board of Trustees, District 6. My name is Dr. Carol Harl, and my love for Northside began as a student at John Marshall High School and continued as an employee here, actually in this building at one time when it was organizational and staff development, and as a parent and now a grandparent. Our children graduated from Sandra Day O'Connor High School, and our grandchildren attend Bonnie Ellison Elementary School and are in the dual language program. Giving back in gratitude to Northside as a trustee and volunteering countless hours in board work continues to be a primary reason I want to continue being on our esteemed board. There are several more reasons why I want to continue to serve and should be considered the best choice as your trustee. As a lifelong, and I always say I'm a forever educator, I've been blessed with many classroom, school, and district level leadership experiences. I've been an elementary and middle school teacher and administrator, a professional development specialist, again here, an executive director for school improvement, and an assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction in 2 different districts. My leadership experiences span 4 San Antonio ISDs, providing unique and diverse educational leadership perspectives and experiences. Upon leaving the school district leadership, I was chosen to work with low-performing schools and school districts throughout Texas for several years. Currently, I work with a nonprofit, Cast Schools, as a director for school experiences. We partner with public school districts to form thematic schools. I also teach future teachers at UTSA, which is also a passion of mine, and my life's work has been and continues to be focused on improving and enriching the lives of public school students and all those employees that surround them with love and care. Again, my passion for serving children and their families began as a daughter of an Air Force pilot and public school educator, my mom. We moved every 3 or 4 years and lived in several countries, giving another perspective about making the world a better place. I continue to, I'm committed, my commitment, energy, and passion continues to be focused on providing the best learning and working experiences for our children, their families, our employees, and community, while valuing and supporting all the employees and educators that care for them. Continuing an unwavering focus and dedication to ensuring our student and staff safety and well-being is a priority, in addition to recruiting, retaining, and supporting our educators and staff. Additionally, I'd like to expand opportunities for students, employees, families, and community members to offer input and have conversations about Northside practices, programs, and public education in general. Ultimately, having our children, educators, and employees at the heart of our collective decision-making is a gift I do not take lightly, and committed to ensuring Northside continues to be where students and families learn and thrive. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for continued support.
All right, thank you, Carol.
Amen.
Made it, thank you. Okay, so that, both our candidates in for District 6 have announced their candidacy. We'll now move over to single-member District 7, and Larissa, you'll go first.
Good evening, and thank you so much, Dr. Kraft, President Blunt, and Board of Trustees. And again, I want to thank y'all for your service and the many years that you have all served to make NISD a great district. Let's see, sorry. So my name is Larissa Martinez, and I am applying or running for NISD District 7. The reason why I'm running is because I've always been a firm believer of the power of education to transform lives. While I am not a product of NISD, I am a product of public education. I graduated from SISD. However, I know what it means to be in school in an underserved district. But it gave me the resilience and grit that I needed to move forward with the path of my life. I served in the United States Air Force, and I proudly served and was honorably discharged after 8.5 years. I learned invaluable lessons of service before self, integrity, and an excellence in all we do that I have continued to use to this day. I hold a bachelor's in information technology, and I also am currently on path to graduate from, Dr. Hall School, Texas A&M School of Law this summer, 2025, in getting a master's in legal studies with a concentration in employment law. So, as a parent and as a community leader, I also am the founder and executive director of a nonprofit called Circle of Arms, where our mission is to promote mental health awareness through education, filling gaps, advocacy, and breaking stigma, primarily among veterans, women, and minority communities. As a parent and community leader, I understand the value of advocacy for change. I also have two sons that graduated in what we call the Alamo Ranch Triangle. One graduated from Taft, one graduated from Harlan, and my son here will soon, well, not soon, he'll be graduating from Soto. He's at Folks Middle School right now. So I definitely understand what is needed and what are the concerns that students have, teachers have in our district. I've also been a resident of NISD for 20 years. So some of the things that I would like to work on, and I apologize that I'm stammering, but some of the platforms that I want to work on are just like mostly everybody else. We want to make sure that we have livable wages for our teachers and staff. We want to make sure that we have, mental health, access to mental health resources for our students and teachers and educators. We want to make sure that we promote sustainability, which means, effectiveness in green, going green. And also any.
I've got to stop you there.
That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and next, Karen.
I'm Karen Freeman, a medical technologist by degree. Over the years, I've worked in hospital and doctor office medical labs. When my husband retired from the Air Force after 20 years, I had worked as an office manager in a medical office practice. We spent most of his military career in San Antonio. All 4 of our children started kindergarten in Northside at Scobie Elementary in 1987, and all graduated from O'Connor High School. I found my niche as fundraising chair on the PTA board when my kids were in elementary school and did the same for band boosters in O'Connor High School. I've been honored by the PTA with a Texas Lifetime membership. Also, before board service, I volunteered for and served on several Northside committees as strategic planning committees, boundary committees, and school advisory committees. I've been actively involved in every bond campaign since 1995. I was encouraged to run for a seat on the board in 2005 and have served on the board ever since. During that time, I also served on the board of directors for the Texas Association of School Boards and termed out after 12 years of service. I also served 7 years on the board for the Helotes Chamber and was honored with their Chamber Lifetime Achievement Award. I've attended Leadership TASB and graduated as a Master Trustee. Since I've served on the Northside board, Northside was honored with the very first large school district HEB Excellence in Education Award. I was equally as proud when 2 years ago this very board won the HEB Excellence in Education Governance Award, where our community engagement initiatives were recognized. And I'm proud to say that we have one of the highest pay scales for teachers in Bexar County. We're about 3rd highest in Bexar County. Since I've been elected, Northside has passed all the proposed bond elections. And this is important because it's evidence that we have the community trust, that we've earned the community trust. And I will say that we have never taken that for granted. We continue to work on it. I attend as many events as some of my fellow trustees as I can because I know it's important for the community to know that we care. It's important to show up. We are transparent in what we do, we listen to our parents and our community, and we take care of business. This has been part of a long-time culture on this board, and we work to continue to build on it. Public ed represents the heart of our community and our future. We talk with lawmakers, those friendly and not so friendly. Tough decisions lie ahead, perhaps more challenging than we've ever faced. I serve because I love Northside, love what we do. It's about serving our kids, our staff, and our community. I would like to continue serving in this role, and I got to tell you, all we have to do, it's very simple. We must teach our kids, support our teachers in order to build our future. Boards do matter, and I would appreciate the support of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. So that also completes our single-member District 7. Both candidates have announced their candidacy. For those that attended this evening and announced your candidacy, thank you all for doing that, okay? So next, we'll go ahead and move over to our future agenda items, led by Dr. Kraft.
Yes, sir. So March 25th will be our next regular held meeting. We'll have, like I say, numerous awards to include TMEA, VACE, Thespian Awards, and then I won't jinx basketball, but anyway.
We'll have 2 teams in the
Two are moving on to play Friday. Harlan won 53-50, and I believe Brendan won. Brendan squeaked by. So, congratulations to them, and like I say, it'll be exciting.
87-49. Brennan beat East Central Harlan, I believe was 51, 50, Valerie, 5350.
Okay, so, so we'll have a review of our summer programs. As mentioned, unfortunately, we're just going to have to scale back for this summer school programming. We are going to bring forward the schematic design for Marshall High School. This one's a pretty complicated project, and it's coming along very nicely. As mentioned earlier, another budget update, and like I say, we'll likely include at least a first iteration of recommendations. Like I say, budget reductions. And then we'll have another round of school safety audits, and we may have a couple of recommendations as far as employment recommendations for associate principals or maybe a director, possibly. That's what I have, like I say, in the works for the 25th of March, which seems like it's a long way away, but it'll be here pretty quick with spring break.
All right, thank you. Dr. Kraft, Trustee Freeman?
Dr. Kraft, did you include our, now I'm gonna get in the head for this. Our awards that we have coming up in Saturday, the,
Oh, the academic.
thank you, ACDEC.
We can. Yeah.
I believe I had a,
That's all right.
What month are we into now? This is March, right? I was
Yeah.
trying to, when
The
you,
schedule.
I thought you were asking a different question. I was trying to remember when we have to announce the trustees' training. That's usually comes about this time, correct?
before board election.
Is it later in the spring? Okay. So nevertheless, it's coming up though, so trustees, let's make sure that we
Before board election.
are looking at that. April, okay, so that's coming up fast. So if you got anything missing, let us know, okay? Any
Or
other?
if you need any help.
Yeah.
Getting hours, just let us know. We'll try to get you the right resource.
Any other future agenda item conversations? Okay. So, so the Board of Trustees on February 25th, 2025, beginning at 9:45, will convene a closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Government Code Sections 551 that listed. The discussion to take place on the items that were also listed, okay? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and go into closed session, and then once we complete that, we'll come back out in open session. All right, so the Board of Trustees, beginning at 10:17, will convene an open meeting. Action can take place on the items that were listed out. Is there a motion to come before the board?
I move that we accept the recommendation for training our teachers, for our staff and students.
All we need is the administrative appointments.
Yeah.
We're good on that.
That was,
Oh,
and that was.
Never mind. Take
I had to- I was
take
reading again.
the minutes.
I was making sure, I said, did I?
Take the minutes off. I move that we accept the recommendations by Dr. Galindo.
Hold on, I think we're okay. Hey, do you mind if I, let me change your wording just a little bit, can you? The administrative appointment, the appointments, yeah, okay. Okay, as presented, okay.
And delete what I said before.
Okay, they gotta do that. And still a second on administrative appointments?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any discussion? Now, it's been moved to second that we approve the administrative appointments as discussed and closed. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Good. Motion carries. Thank you all.